destino en la esquina. Un líder silencioso que habla con su juego. Messi, el prodigio que nos lleva al cielo. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución. Escribe su historia con talento y pasión. En el campo de juego es pura inspiración. Con los años pasen, su legado quedará. En cada rincón del mundo su nombre brillará. Messi, el genio eterno del fútbol, el rey. En nuestros corazones siempre te llevaré. Cuando todo parece perdido, Él se ilumina. Desde Rosario al mundo, con un sueño en los pies, un niño tímido con el balón como su rey. Con cada toque mágico empezó a brillar, un prodigio en la cancha, listo para triunfar. De la masía al cielo con su zurda inmortal, dribla entre gigantes, no hay quien lo pueda parar. Con el número 10, su nombre es una leyenda. En cada gol y jugada su historia se extiende. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución. Escribe su historia con talento y pasión. En el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Con la camiseta albiceleste lidera su nación. Un héroe de todos, en cada rincón sus goles son poesía. Su juego es arte, en cada estadio del mundo deja su parte. Blanco el corazón, lucha sin cesar. En cada partido da todo por ganar. Con humildad y grandeza nos hace soñar. En el verde césped es un astro sin igual. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución. Escribe su historia con talento y pasión. En el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución. Escribe su historia con talento y pasión. En el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Cuando todo parece perdido, Él se ilumina. Con su magia en los pies, cambia destino en la esquina. Un líder silencioso que habla con su juego. Messi, el prodigio que nos lleva al cielo. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución. Escribe su historia con talento y pasión. En el campo de juego es pura inspiración. Con los años pasen, su legado quedará. En cada rincón del mundo su nombre brillará. Messi, el genio eterno del fútbol, el rey. En nuestros corazones siempre te llevaré. Cuando todo parece perdido, Él se ilumina. Desde Rosario al mundo, con un sueño en los pies, un niño tímido con el balón como su rey. Con cada toque mágico empezó a brillar, un prodigio en la cancha, listo para triunfar. De la masía al cielo con su zurda inmortal, dribla entre gigantes, no hay quien lo pueda parar. Con el número 10, su nombre es una leyenda. En cada gol y jugada su historia se extiende. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución. Escribe su historia con talento y pasión. En el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Con la camiseta albiceleste, lidera su nación, un héroe de todos, en cada rincón sus goles son poesía, su juego es arte, en cada estadio del mundo deja su parte, alto el corazón, lucha sin cesar, en cada partido da todo por ganar, con humildad y grandeza nos hace soñar, en el verde césped es un astro sin igual. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Parece perdido, él se ilumina, con su magia en los pies, cambia destino en la esquina, un líder silencioso que habla con su fuego, Messi el prodigio que nos lleva al cielo, Messi el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo de juego es pura inspiración, con los años pasen, su legado quedará. En cada rincón del mundo su nombre brillará. Messi, el genio eterno, del fútbol el rey. En nuestros corazones siempre te llevaré.
He is right. We can never understand. But my word was found enjoying the journey to crown a world champion. This is Brazil. The time for the next chapter of this relentless World Championship run. Welcome back to an iconic venue currently bathed in the rain. We're ready to race in Sao Paulo at 4.3 kilometers, 2.6 miles. There are 15 turns, there's plenty of elevation, there's plenty of jeopardy, and there's plenty of excitement heading your way across the next minimum 90 minutes of racing action. This race tightens up the grab. This is Formula 1.
Desde Rosario al mundo, con un sueño en los pies, un niño tímido con el balón como su récord, cada toque mágico empezó a brillar, un prodigio en la cancha listo para triunfar, de la masía al cielo con su zurda inmortal, triple entre gigantes no hay quien lo pueda parar, con el número 10 su nombre es una leyenda, en cada gol y jugada su historia se extiende. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Con la camiseta albiceleste, lidera su nación, un héroe de todos, en cada rincón sus goles son poesía, su juego es arte, en cada estadio del mundo deja su parte, alto el corazón, lucha sin cesar, en cada partido da todo por ganar, con humildad y grandeza nos hace soñar, en el verde césped es un astro sin igual. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Cuando todo parece perdido, él se ilumina, con su magia en los pies, cambia destino en la esquina, un líder silencioso que habla con su juego, Messi el prodigio que nos lleva al cielo, Messi el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo de juego es pura inspiración. Con los años pasen, su legado quedará, en cada rincón del mundo su nombre brillará. Messi, el genio eterno, del fútbol el rey, en nuestros corazones siempre te llevaré.
You're expecting more rain 20 minutes into the rest, then it is a fairly short period, and then a brief period where it's not raining.
Cuando todo parece perdido, él se ilumina.
that could potentially still happen. We've heard rain in 10 minutes, rain in 20 minutes, then it's going to stop, then it's going to start again, heavier, lighter. There's just so many variables going into the race that is already living with variables due to the fact that the traffic is very
Desde Rosario al mundo, con un sueño en los pies, un niño tímido con el balón como su rey, con cada toque mágico empezó a brillar, un prodigio en la cancha, listo para triunfar. En la masía al cielo, con su zurda inmortal, tierra entre gigantes, no hay quien lo pueda parar. Con el número 10, su nombre es una leyenda, cada gol y jugada, su historia se extiende. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es tu inspiración. Con la camiseta albiceleste, lidera su nación, un héroe de todos, en cada rincón sus goles son poesía, su juego es arte, cada estadio del mundo deja su parte, gato al corazón, lucha sin cesar, en cada partido da todo por ganar, con humildad y grandeza nos hace soñar, en el verde césped es un astro sin igual. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Cuando todo parece perdido, él se ilumina, con su magia en los pies, cambia el destino a la esquina. Un líder silencioso que habla con su juego, Messi el prodigio que nos lleva al cielo. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Con la capa los años pasen, su legado quedará, en cada rincón del mundo su nombre brillará. Messi, el genio eterno, del fútbol el rey, en nuestros corazones siempre te llevaré.
Like a solo player last year, but this one's bizarre because he was stopped on the pavement. Lance tried to drive back onto the circuit through the gravel, and the car just got beached, it looks like.
Cuando todo parece perdido, él se
You are
ilumina.
correct, Jameson. Well, I knew it was beached. The it looks like part was, it looks like he just tried to drive straight through it, but that's, you know, the gravel track's designed to slow a car down at speed. If you don't have any momentum going, the chances of it getting that stuff are on the path.
Desde Rosario al mundo, con un sueño en los pies, un niño tímido con el balón como su rey, con cada toque mágico empezó a brillar, un prodigio en la cancha, listo para triunfar. En la masía al cielo, con su zurda inmortal, tierra entre gigantes, no hay quien lo pueda parar. Con el número 10, su nombre es una leyenda, en cada gol y jugada su historia se extiende. Messi, el genio del balón, con cada toque hace una revolución, escribe su historia con talento y pasión, en el campo del juego es pura inspiración. Con la camiseta albiceleste, lidera su nación, un héroe de todos, en cada rincón sus goles son poesía, su juego es arte, en cada estadio del mundo deja su parte, gato al corazón, lucha sin cesar, en cada partido da todo por ganar.
I'm not sure on this one. Maybe you'll know. You see the pit out light still closed. Carlos Sainz stage up there at pit out. He'll be sitting there, engine running, not getting any opportunity to get air through the radiators. These cars are not designed to sit idle. Race cars need air. I'm not sure if he's allowed to do a lap as well and come back through pit lane, or if he's just going to have to sit there and hope this all gets going soon enough before he has an issue.
Okay, the digger has gone to rescue the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. Flip that one up and chuck it into Drive to Survive. The Canadian driver finds himself watching on as the field barrel through. The start has been aborted, and
Can't quite see the grid out of the window. Have we got a slow start? We've got a stall from Valtteri Bottas. And Franco Colapinto as well. And does Max Verstappen have drive? The World Championship leader, can they control-alt-delete? He's in neutral at the moment. There is usually a way to switch on. Let's listen in.
Just trying to see if I can hear an engine note. There we go.
There you go. Found something.
Colapinto just parked in the wrong grid slot.
Yeah, all sorts of procedures have been breached here, Max. We're looking into it. Should not have started.
Yeah, you have to wait for the green light.
So there's a yellow light on the gantry, and Red Bull immediately turned around to the umpire and said, you're not meant to go until the green light. Then there was trouble getting off the line. You can switch the car off, and look at this! Look at this! Lando Norris, it's a short lap here, but it's not that short a lap here. 2.6 miles later, Norris is coming round turn 15. That is the final corner, as Stroll is still beached. Colapinto is ahead of Verstappen. They've got to sort out the correct order. They've got to make sure that they don't park up in Alex Albon's empty grid spot, because he withdrew so late he's still classified. And this is the second Williams, Franco Colapinto, in the order. He's the only driver left for Williams in the race.
Yeah, you see, he noticed the issue right there. Got on the brakes, locked it up, and then just decided, well, I'm halfway there. Let's move forward. That's the 14th grid spot. So yeah, he just went up a row too far.
But I think for him to have found 14, someone's got it wrong further up.
Because somebody should be in position 14.
Because somebody should be in position 14. It's starting to come unglued in Sao Paulo, if I'm honest. It is turning into an incredible day. Thanks to all the marshals who were here at silly o'clock this morning. We had qualifying at 7:30 a.m. We couldn't have done it without the marshals.
Colapinto just parked in the wrong grid slot.
Yeah, all sorts of procedures have been breached here, Max. We're looking into it. Should not have started.
Yeah, you have to wait for the green light.
Mistake to make. Hopefully this time it's all sorted.
Yeah, this mess was caused from the front. We're just trying to unpick it. You did the right thing.
Aborted start once again. Race control have aborted the start. That message illuminated on the LED board, and the yellow lights are out. We're going to have a total reset of the Grand Prix. This only adds to the tension. Lando Norris, our pole sitter, the 8th time in his Formula 1 career, shaking his head in disbelief. This season doesn't need any more tension, and it's got some.
How long was it until they said the rain was coming?
Well, it's got very dark outside of our commentary box.
That's exactly why I asked. This delay is potentially just throwing a massive curveball into the strategies, into the approach for these teams and drivers. I mean, it was starting to look dry in some places out, especially up the back, up the hill.
Now, rulebook dictates the restart procedure, so we literally reboot everything now. We do so with a 10-minute warning. The formation lap will start again at 12:47 local time. And the incident involving car number 4, Lando Norris, noted for a starting procedure infringement. Did Lando begin the second formation lap before the green lights were illuminated?
Quite possibly, quite possibly. So the yellow lights illuminate to announce to the drivers it is an aborted start. Then, while still...
Yeah, this mess was caused from the front. We're just trying to unpick it. You did the right thing.
On the grid was that Lando pulled away shortly after the yellow lights started flashing in the first place. Did not wait for the green, so that is the starting procedure infringement. We believe that is being looked into. No idea what the potential repercussions are for that, if I'm honest, but this is, again, just more drama in a day, in a weekend, in a season that didn't need any more to be an absolutely incredibly exciting weekend.
Lando Norris moves before the green lights illuminate on the gantry. That will be, on the precedent of previous seasons, a penalty for our pole sitter, and the championship pendulum swings again. This was an extraordinary opportunity for Lando Norris, but he's under investigation right now. The pitch is clear. He can expect, McLaren can expect, an incoming penalty.
I'm speechless. This day couldn't get, this weekend could not get any stranger, you know, stranger than fiction. You couldn't write it like this. unbelievable. Only the 6th time in Formula One history we had to have qualifying on the same day as the race. Wasn't even sure coming in we were going to be able to do either session. We're getting both in, but not without the drama, all the qualifying incidents, 5 red flags, matching a record for the highest number of reds in qualifying, tons of damage to cars on race morning. Incredible job by several different teams to get their cars up and ready. Outstanding stories like this one here with Yuki Tsunoda and his teammate Liam Lawson. But now we have a potential penalty coming for the pole sitter who's chasing down the championship leader in the Drivers' Championship.
The rule is, if the formation lap has started and the race director decides the start should be aborted, the abort lights will be switched on, they're the yellow ones. A board saying aborted start will be displayed. All cars should return to the grid and all competitors will be informed of the likely delay using the official messaging system. There was no green light, there was no instruction to proceed, and that second formation lap began without the permission of race control. And that, in a season of unusual events, in a weekend of unusual events, is another one to add to the list. This is the first time a Grand Prix start has been brought forward since 1984. It's the first time we've had qualifying and the Grand Prix on the same day since 2019. And in Formula One 2024, just expect the unexpected. It's a sporting cliche, but this year, it's so true.
And we've talked about the elements of, driver psyche quite a bit this weekend with all the different changes and schedule and procedure. You're amped up for the race. You have your pre-race routine, your pre-race ritual. You have the whole starting procedure, everything that you have to do from a procedural standpoint inside the car. And then you get thrown a curveball like this. You've got to reset, recalibrate everything, make sure you go through all the proper steps again as you start this next formation lap in a few minutes here, about 6 minutes before we get going. It is just another thing added to the difficult challenge for these drivers. They all had to get up much earlier than they were expecting. They all had to participate in a stressful qualifying session before getting into their cars for Grand Prix. That's not normal for a racing driver in this series at this level, and all of them having to cope with it.
So there was no instruction to begin the formation lap. The pole sitter went and the majority of the field went as well. Max Verstappen stayed planted on the grid. So when we cut to Valtteri Bottas was the first driver we'd seen who'd not gone because, remembering the rule book and having a little bit of time to react, maybe the teams jumped on the radio as well. We'll review all of that and try to bring you a summary of how that was communicated. But we initially thought it was a stall for multiple cars. Instead, it was a deliberate wait back, and knowledge of the rule book is crucial here. This might not be a 5-second penalty for Lando Norris. This could be way more than we're used to seeing for a driver being penalised. Let's send it downstairs to Will and Ruth watching this extraordinary day unfold with us.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. It's an incredible situation, Ruth, and obviously something which you guys on the pit will have to be prepared for. Now, it said aborted start, but it never said extra formation lap. What are the details around what they should have done, what they should have waited for in this kind of a situation lap?
Well, if everything's working correctly in terms of light panels and everything else like that, the aborted start procedure is a completely different one to the extra formation lap. Extra formation lap is usually if there's something that's caused a small delay, that everything's clear by the time you get back round. Aborted start is this whole big procedure where we restart the timer effectively. You see all the guys go back onto the grid, and it's a completely different section of the sporting reg. So when the lights are yellow, it's not go time. It's basically flashing yellow.
We're not sure. We don't think there's a problem with the car. There was quite a bit of rear locking there. Huge front locking. Nearly went 4 seconds and 4.
It's start, which means there is no start. Ultimately, everything is paused. So switch it off, wait for the team to come to you, and we go again. We start the whole start procedure again.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to the steward's discretion which they flag based on how long they think the delay is. So obviously now we have an aborted start. We could yet get another delay because if we get a change in climatic conditions during an aborted start procedure after the 5-minute schedule, the whole system can then stay again. So it does make sense why they put the aborted start, given there was multiple cars with issues, and they weren't 100% sure of a safe start.
So ultimately, we get the formation lap. We get to the end of the formation lap. Lance Stroll is off the track, meaning you cannot start the race at that point, or the stewards realised or determined even do another formation lap safety, at which point they put up the board that says
start, aborted, and at that point, that is the point at which Lando and everyone should have switched off their cars, should have done what Max Verstappen and all the others did, which was sit on the grid, do not move, because they weren't told to do another formation lap, they were told the start had been aborted, and that means reset. So Lando definitively the one in the who was at fault here.
Yes, I mean, from the information we have right now, it certainly seems like that because, you know, a aborted start is an aborted start. I believe right now we've just heard the klaxon, which I believe is a 5-minute klaxon to the safety car. It's much harder when you're not on the grid to see these things, which means that we are now into the 5-minute countdown, wherefore we now restart the procedure. Now, if we suddenly get rain, arrives certainly more, we can get another delay, nothing to do with the cars on track or any issues like that.
Thanks for clearing that up, Ruth.
Well, this day of drama keeps on delivering. Wonderful to have your company wherever in the world you may be watching. This is a day for the ages. Ponchos on, hoodies on, hoods up, weather incoming. Sam Collins, it's looking dark out of my window. What's it looking like on your radar?
It's looking lively on the radar, Alex. Look, there's a big blob of heavy rain just outside the circuit. It's just brushing the edge of the circuit. We might get rain on one bit of the track and not on the rest, but that's going to be very short-lived. But then coming in, there's quite a lot of clutter on the radar. It's in that dead spot. I think there's a heavy shower in that lot. Behind it, then we go into the Grand Prix, some serious cells deeper into the race. It is still that mixed condition race. We're going to see tyre changes. We're going to see the wets. We're going to see the inters. Let's hope they get the formation lap right this time, because they certainly didn't do it right that time, Alex.
Say that again, Sam. Thank you for that update of the weather. Here's another update for the weather. You can see it. Hence, in this situation, this is anyone's race. This is just wide open. This is anyone's chance. If you keep it pointing in the right direction on the tarmac, this is anyone's chance. And we've still got a huge amount of time to run. Honestly, it's right at the moment.
Weekend long here, they just go up exponentially. And as that happens, it doesn't matter how many strategists you have, how much computer simulation you've done, there's a certain element of this that is lottery, luck, execution on the day, quick thinking, gut feeling. You can't sim that, and that's going to be a huge part of today.
Take 3, we leave the line. And Lando Norris under investigation, our pole sitter, with an incredible opportunity to close the gap down to Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen starting this race officially from 17th, but Stroll has spun out from 10th on the grid. Alex Albon will not take 7th on the grid either. They've got to remember to leave the gaps. They're slow away once again as we go through this process. They've got to leave 7th on the grid empty. They've got to leave 10th on the grid empty, and they've got to wait for the right lights at the right time.
It sounds like a lot. There's a lot going on. And here's the thing. Look, I understand drivers should know the rules. Yes. But right before the start of a Grand Prix, there's lots going through a driver's mind. As we talked about, all the procedural stuff you have to go through and remember. As soon as Lance Stroll was seen off, the possibility of an aborted start comes up. There are multiple people on pit lane, as we see Norris reporting back. A little bit of sprinkling on the racetrack. With multiple people back on the pit stand that could get on the radio and remind the driver, hey, look, potential aborted start coming. Let's remember what the procedures are for that. It's a team thing. There's no one person to blame in this situation. We're still waiting to see what the repercussions are going to be for that misstep. But it's just a tough break for a team and a driver looking to capitalize on a huge opportunity today.
We never hear the communication from team to race director anymore as it spits with rain on Lewis Hamilton's visor. Driver started in 14th officially on the grid. But there will be frantic discussions going on with the race director. And here's Vitic, who joined Formula One from the Touring Car Championship. And there is the Drivers' Championship on the left-hand side. Here's Vitic, the race director for the FIA, governing body of the sport we adore. And this day that began so early for so many in the pit lane
now has a moment to draw breath. The drivers are dealing with the driest.
These brakes, 200 degrees too cold. No matter what I do, I can't get them working.
10-minute one, that was about correct because that was the 10-minute stoppage that we had there for that abandoned start, and the rain has started, and I think it's only going to pick up in intensity from here based on what Sam was saying and what the radars are telling us.
Here we go then. One in the pit lane, two already out of the race. Let's try this again. The race to win into Argos begins in 5 lights time. The Sao Paulo Grand Prix is underway, and they make from the line. Good reaction time for George Russell. The lead for George Russell. The Mercedes man gets by. Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon forces his way past the two V-cars, or at least he's trying to. Yuki Tsunoda hangs on to third position as Lewis Hamilton is all over the curb. Here is Oscar Piastri toughing it out with Fernando Alonso. Alonso in the green Aston Martin, and now you've got Piastri moving out of the wheel tracks. They're on the intermediate tyres. They're looking for a way by. This is the turn number 4. This is a chance for Fernando Alonso. Wide moment now for Liam Lawson. Allows Alonso to keep the place on the way in, but Piastri kept it pinned on the way out, and he's able to go past the two-time world champion. George Russell is the race leader. Then it's Lando Norris. Yuki Tsunoda is in third. Esteban Ocon put pressure on, but couldn't force his way by. Then it's Charles Leclerc up a place. Liam Lawson down a position, and Piastri got past Alonso.
Now two former rivals, Verstappen and Hamilton, going at it as Verstappen's trying to claw back some positions there. That Liam Lawson move on Fernando Alonso, that's not going to be liked by the Spaniard. There might be more words exchanged between those two, and this one's over. But now side by side, the Sauber on the Haas. Ollie Behrman trying to hold on that position, and round goes Checo. Sergio Perez spins round the Red Bull, keeps the engine going, and he will rejoin if he can find a gear, and he does so. His teammate, meanwhile, up 6 places to 11th position. Norris, again, cannot convert into leading lap 1 of the contest from pole position. He's lost the place to George Russell. Good reaction time for the British driver. Norris still under investigation, and through the spray, having a go at Lewis Hamilton, fighting his way through and taking 10th place. The man on the charge, the championship leader on the attack, Max Verstappen up to P10. The confidence that Max Verstappen has in his Red Bull right now is phenomenal. That is the first time they've gone through turn 1 at speed with more fuel in the wet, and he was so confident on the brakes, late on the inside. Bit of a lockup now into turn 4. Was a little bit wide, not wide enough to create an opportunity for Hamilton, but man, Verstappen in these conditions is just sublime, as is Hamilton behind him. This is a great start for the Red Bull driver.
A great reaction time for George Russell. He moves up to first position. Lando Norris down to second. They're all on the intermediate tyre at the moment. Esteban Ocon was the driver putting pressure on Yuki Tsunoda, but Tsunoda was able to keep the place. This is on board with Lewis Hamilton, who finds himself looking at the back of Max Verstappen once again. We've seen these two be thrilling battle through the years around this circuit. Lando Norris in second, Max Verstappen in 10th. 7.8 seconds between the two of them. Crucially, Norris under investigation as well. Drivers will be learning with every single lap that they run around here. The track is nowhere near as wet as it was earlier on at the start of qualifying. The teams and the drivers are going to understand how it is to drive. They've had it in low fuel. Now, what's it like when you've added way more to the back of the car?
Well, look, it's dry enough that we're still getting sparks off the floors down the front straight. You can see even with that repave so bumpy on the front straight as the Haas teammates going side by side. Behrman ahead of Hulkenberg right now. Crucial defense coming up here. No DRS, I believe, while the wet tires are on.
Yeah, that is the jurisdiction of race control. Plumes of spray too high at the moment. Sainz is reporting heavy rain in Sector 3. That is where you are in complete dependence of the grip of the car. In the dry, you don't think about turns 13, 14 and 15. In the wet, you have to be so mindful.
It's extra hard because of the speed at which they're going.
It's hammering down. It's hammering down in this part of the circuit. It was reported by Sainz that drivers now living on their instincts
A single lockup could cause the end of your Grand Prix. This is such a tough moment. Russell with the fastest lap, but where is the grip and how hard dare you push?
And this is what the challenge is right now for these drivers. You're trying to find that grip level, but as the rain comes down, it's going the other direction. It's hard enough when you're trying to find the grip as it's increasing and the track's drying. It's arguably much harder in this situation where you started on entered almost drying racetrack in certain parts. Now as the rain comes, every time you come to a brake zone, that braking point is different. If it is earlier, how far do you dare push on these crucial laps as the rain starts to fall and the track condition starts to deteriorate?
Lap 4 of 70 in Brazil, and we have rain falling once again.
So Max, this increased rain intensity will last around 2 or 3 minutes.
It's incredible the accuracy with which they have, in theory, on the weather. To know that it's this intensity of rain for 2 to 3 minutes, then it should lighten up again. I mean, the amount of time and energy that these teams have to invest in figuring out meteorological situations and conditions is just crazy. I'd love to see an onboard of that first lap from Verstappen up that many positions. Just phenomenal.
This is where a great driver just finds the space, and we wondered whether we were going to get Angry Max or the sublime, wonderful touch in the wet that just picks cars off the front. And on the evidence of the first 4 laps, it looks like he's repeating what he did in 2016. We had a momentary yellow flag. A reminder, Lando Norris is still under investigation for jumping the aborted start, but you've got to bear in mind he was followed off the line by the entire field in the end. So an unprecedented situation for race control to wrap their head around. Again, another unprecedented situation in this most extraordinary of days. Lando Norris has the fastest lap of the race. Max Verstappen looking to make another move.
So Max, this increased rain intensity will last around 2 or 3 minutes.
Be postponed, but it is raining out there with all the cars on intermediate tyres. Lando Norris has got the gap down to the lead to 9/10 of a second.
2 fastest laps in a row for Norris as we go back now to take a look at that initial start. Similar launch times from the front row, but it just feels like a little more wheel spin out of the McLaren. A great second phase of acceleration there from Russell. Made it an easy run into turn 1. And yeah, like Liam Lawson here, trying to go around the outside, realized it wasn't going to work, backed out of it, even though it cost him the position to the Ferrari. That was heads-up driving. You don't want to get into contact early in the race, especially with your teammates.
He's on board with George Russell. You can see second phase, just going to get that drive and going to get the lead. First place for the driver who won this Grand Prix back in 2022. But Lando Norris has regrouped. You have live pictures on the left-hand side of your screen. That's how they made their way by Hinch. Takes us away with Max Verstappen.
Well, an absolutely phenomenal launch. Bit of a slow getaway for the Haas right in front of him. He's going by the Williams now as we get to this first brake zone. You're at the mercy of the cars in front of you. You're not sure what opportunities are going to open up. You just kind of have to play it by ear, see where the gap is, and then, as Senna famously says, you got to go for it. And this is that outside move in 3 he used to such devastating effect back in 2016. Just hanging it out there. And there you go with that spin from Checo. Almost identical to the spin we saw out of Russell in qualifying. Same corner, first lap on intermediate tires. He's not quite in them yet. So easy to do. And Lando really closing that gap down now.
Well, I want to see a replay of Max Verstappen go around the outside of turn 3 on that opening lap. That was champion's class to go around the outside there and find grip where others could not. Verstappen has made another place. He's up to 8th position, past Fernando Alonso, having previously passed Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton after that flurry of moves on the opening lap. Sublime stuff from the reigning world champion, chasing his 4th title. But chasing the race leader and looking for his first is Lando Norris. The man from the West Country up against the Norfolk boy. Both of these Brits climb the motor racing ladder together, and the Russell-Tsunoda-Lawson incident for the starting procedure has been noted, but everyone left the grid on the starting procedure. This is a truly crazy situation. Surely the entire field is going to end up in investigation. New fastest lap of the race belongs to George Russell. We're on lap 7 of 70. An unprecedented situation of Lando Norris leading the field around a second formation lap. Leaves us with so many drivers now under investigation. And that is going to be interesting to see which way it goes. That incident has been noted for Russell, Tsunoda and Lawson, not yet under investigation. Under investigation between Behrman and Colapinto is an incident at turn 10, the replay of Max Verstappen getting past Fernando Alonso.
Remember, he's doing this without DRS. He's just driving around these cars right now. He's changing conditions, being creative on how to find the grip, where to find the grip. And that's one of the big challenges as it does start to dry if the rain stops. Trying to go offline to make a move, it's still wet offline. It's much harder to get those passes down and pulled off as this track starts to dry. So Max kind of hoping it does stay wet, keeps sprinkling, and makes it a little more of a fair fight for him.
Well, we're having plenty of fights out on the racetrack. A reminder, a rain shower could completely change things entirely. Russell looking for his second victory around this circuit. Lando Norris looking for a second victory after claiming the sprint yesterday. And he finds himself heading to the center S's. These two climb the motor racing ladder together, put on a brilliant battle in Formula 2 for the title in 2018. Both made their debuts for British teams in Formula 1 in 2019. Williams moved from George Russell moved from Williams to Mercedes. Lando Norris has always been at McLaren, despite the fact that time and time again, Red Bull tried to sign him. He waited for that car to come good. It has done. He's a Grand Prix winner now, and he's trying to chase down Red Bull to win the Drivers' World Championship. You see the drivers moving off the racing line there, Hinch. The rain is falling, but what are they worried about when they do that?
Temperature. They're worried about tire temperature. It's falling, but not hard enough around the entire circuit. And if you start pushing too hard on these intermediate tires on dry-ish parts of the racetrack, you can really start to overheat and chew away the rubber on that tire. So down the straightaway, they're going offline onto where it's a little bit wetter, just trying to get some more water onto the tire, trying to cool it down a little bit, ultimately trying to make it last longer. We're only 8 laps into a 70-lap race. 1 lap removed because of the aborted start, originally 71, but you can't refuel in Formula 1, obviously, so the teams put a very precise amount of fuel in these race cars, could not restart with the entire Grand Prix distance still on the clock, but that's what these drivers are doing now, is just trying to find a little bit of moisture and cool these tires down.
Interesting battle ahead of us now. Oscar Piastri looking very, very strong on the intermediate tyre until the final runs of qualifying. And then he found himself slipping back, which means that he is in this position of coming under attack from Max Verstappen. Can he help his teammate and his team? He certainly did yesterday by moving over and giving up a sprint win. Can he do so again? Verstappen will want a clean and quick pass, but Piastri has been sensational this year. 2 times a Grand Prix winner in his second season. You would have seen a 10-second penalty for Behrman for causing a collision. Lando Norris is under investigation. George Russell and the second row, Yuki Tsunoda, 5th place Liam Lawson, have been noted not investigated. They're still trying to work out what on earth you do about an aborted start when there wasn't a second formation lap declared.
The stewards' room must be incredibly hectic and frantic right now, while at the same time trying to keep one eye on what's happening on the track, because there's still a lot of close racing that might need to be addressed at some point as we listen to some Hamilton radio.
The ride is really bad. Car's bouncing so much.
We put a lot of that from the Mercedes drivers this weekend. The repage not necessarily doing everything it normally does in terms of eliminating the bumps on a racetrack. And man, Max Verstappen just pounding Piastri. He was all over those apex curves and blown away at how much curb a lot of these drivers are able to take on the apex. Normally in wet conditions, the painted curves are quite a bit more slippery, and you see they're giving a little bit of leeway. Oh,
here we go with Max Verstappen. Wasn't even a contest. In another league right now. The man showing us why he's a 3-time world champion. Piastri would have offered a defense if he thought he could, but Verstappen roars by. He's going past all of them. The driver who started so far back on the grid now looking at the major points. He's up 10 places in the Grand Prix.
Sorry, JT, he was so far back, I didn't think that was a pass attempt even coming. I was just droning on about curves and paint, and this guy, Verstappen, just launching it up the inside. It's just, again, like I said, so much confidence on the brakes right now in these conditions. That I don't think Piastri expected a move there.
Let's have a look at Oliver Behrman. He got a penalty, 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. This is the moment where
The rain is really bad. Car bouncing so much.
Ollie, we have a 10-second penalty for the collision with Colapinto.
Why? He didn't even lose any time.
Yeah, Behrman pointing out that he punished himself by hitting the back of the sole remaining Williams in the Grand Prix. How about this from Max Verstappen on a McLaren? Late on the brakes.
I mean, he was even in line with Piastri. I don't think he was even expecting to make that move. He just hit the brakes when he normally does, but was able to adjust the line, get up the inside there of the McLaren, and easily pulled off. That just shows the pace he's got right now. Max Verstappen now chasing down Liam Lawson. That's the next target. I don't think we'll see much of a fight here from the V car.
This is extraordinary pace from Verstappen. This is the sort of drive that we talk about time and time again. But it's early stages. You've got to put all the stints together. The Red Bull is fighting. We haven't seen that. We saw a sprint victory for him in Austin, but in the Grand Prix format, the big prize, the 25 points for winning it, Max Verstappen hasn't won since the Spanish Grand Prix, and there won't be a contest there. That's the junior team not fighting the senior team. Another position gained. Lawson knows who he wants to join next year, and he doesn't fight it. Certainly compared to what we saw 1 week ago in Mexico City.
Yeah, not the same defense against Max as we saw against Checo, but again, the gap is not growing. He's only about 11 seconds behind the leader right now, behind Russell. He's doing an incredible job. This is a Hamilton 2021-esque drive.
Ollie, we have a 10-second penalty for the collision with Colapinto.
Why? He didn't even lose any time.
Lewis Hamilton is off the road. When he has been driving a Mercedes this weekend, he has been having a torrid time. Franco Colapinto trying to take advantage, currently hanging on to 12th position. Hamilton finding himself again struggling with the bouncing, with the rides in between qualifying and the race. He was out in Senna's McLaren from 1990, and now the crowd are cheering for Colapinto because he's going to pinch his way by as he gets to turn 3. And the Argentine supporters in the grandstand absolutely love it. He's up to P12, and he's never finished lower since he joined Formula One.
Just incredible stuff, capitalizing on that mistake from Lewis Hamilton. Thought Lewis was maybe going to try to hang around the outside as we see some side-by-side action there.
Bottas and Behrman trying to sort it out, and the Haas gets ahead. So Bottas loses 1 position, make that 2, because Sergio Perez, recovering from that spin earlier on, has climbed to 16th. Yuki Tsunoda is keeping the V-Car team in 3rd place. Esteban Ocon is not letting him breathe at all, though. 7/10 of a second between 3rd and 4th. Charles Leclerc, in a car that has won 3 Grand Prix in his command this year, cannot get past either of them. They're driving brilliantly right now. This is a 7-time world champion continuing his difficult weekend.
Been a struggle right from first practice. Let's see here, down in turn 12, a little bit of a lock-up. You see that left front tire just stop rotating through the grass. You've got to be so careful when it's wet on the grass like that. Any stab too much on the throttle can instantly spin you around, even worse than on the racetrack. As we see the battle now for 5th position. Cannot believe we are talking about Max Verstappen battling for 5th, 13 laps into this race, having qualified kind of 17.
So he started 15th of those lined up. He lined up in the 17th grid spot on the box. Albon didn't take the start. Stroll spun off on the formation lap. We then had a rogue second formation lap, which we should not have had. And still no word from race control. Scrap that. Instant word from race control. Norris will be investigated after the race. Russell, Tsunoda and Lawson will be investigated after the race. And sometimes, well, why can't they figure it out with the time that they've got? But genuinely, that is an unprecedented situation to see the procedure not followed in that way.
Now expect this rain till lap 30.
Yeah, I was just going to note, it looked like on the camera we saw a lot more rain starting to fall. Just keeping an eye on the lap times, losing about a half second compared to what the leaders were doing just a few laps ago. So rain picking up a little bit. That ebb and flow that we're seeing with the weather again. It's not doing one thing. It's not consistently trending in one direction. Such a challenge right now for everybody trying to figure this out. You see that Reminder there of the starting procedure being investigated after the race. And again, look, we talked about it. There's a race going on. They can't spend too much time and too much focus looking into this fairly unprecedented situation. They've got 18 cars on the racetrack doing battle. They got to keep an eye on it.
Well, everyone did eventually leave the line, which might help the defense of Lando Norris, but that's a very unusual one on a very unusual day. Let's go back to Sergio Perez. This is on board with the driver who's running in 16th position.
Just a little bit wide, a lot of bit wide, really there. Oh, that was close. Great heads up, avoiding action there from Checo.
Now expect this rain till lap 30.
For 5, and there's a lot of room there, and he's very wet off the racing line as well. So brave to try it, and wise to avoid it once again. Driver down in 16th position. This is the battle for 3rd place in the Grand Prix. Yuki Tsunoda up against Esteban Ocon. This would be Yuki Tsunoda's best ever result in Formula 1. Esteban Ocon is looking for a 4th career podium today. Just loves this circuit in the rain. And then Charles Leclerc will not believe it's Max Verstappen in his mirrors, but it is, and he is looking every inch. The 3-time world champion, chasing his 4th title this year and chasing one of those drives that we talk about long into the future. He's made up a huge amount of time, and he is 10 seconds away from the race leader, 10.1 seconds away from his championship rival, Lando Norris. He's 10.8 seconds away from the race leader, George Russell.
Yeah, this is Verstappen 2023. You know, you could put him anywhere on the grid and he would just carve his way through it. That's not been the case in 2024 since about a quarter of the way into the season. So again, just an absolutely stonking drive so far for Max. But as you say, Jason, long way to go. Norris just tracking the Mercedes, not letting him get ahead. It's been about between 0.8 and 1.2 seconds for pretty much the entire Grand Prix so far. So strategy, pit cycle, that could be a massive indicator of how this one's going to play out. This is where everyone on pit wall has got to do their part to try to figure out how to get the McLaren around the Mercedes.
We are seeing more rain at this section. We are still seeing the sparks though. And running on board the left-hand side of your picture with the second Mercedes in the race, Lewis Hamilton trying to retake that position away from Franco Colapinto. Hamilton is a 3-time winner around this circuit. And it's 16 years since he won his first World Championship at this circuit in incredible fashion back in 2008. And the chase continues. Two of the fan favourites, you have to say, around here. Colapinto and Hamilton, great clean racing earlier on in the Senna S's. It's Russell with a 1.1 second lead over Lando Norris. Tsunoda has broken a little bit clear of Esteban Ocon, who's under serious pressure from Charles Leclerc now. Charles Leclerc is all over the back. At least he was. He couldn't find his way through. Now Max Verstappen is trying to get past and continue this sensational recovery drive. 17th on the grid, and he is on the attack.
Yeah, I just struggling to overtake so slow on the straight.
It was a conscious choice for McLaren to bolt on the high downforce rear wing. Of course, it gives you the maximum grip possible in these wet conditions, but it does cost you straight line speed, and that is what Lando Norris is reporting.
But that could come back into his favor depending on the conditions. If it gets a lot wetter, if it starts to get even drier initially, the first few laps on that crossover, it could be a benefit to have that extra grip. It could be very helpful on outlaps. So it is a bit of a give and take, but that's the nature of setting up race cars. You can't just go for max straight line speed and max grip in the corners. You've got to find that compromise. And with the conditions, you would naturally tend to add a little bit more downforce to the situation. So they need to be thinking of how they can do it either on tire life or on pit strategy to get around Russell.
And Max Verstappen dropping back from the race leaders now, as has Lando Norris last time around. George Russell did a 1:23.984. Lando Norris did a 1:24.84. And it's Russell ahead of Norris, ahead of Tsunoda and Ocon. Russell up a place, got it from Lando Norris at the start. Max Verstappen up 11.
Yeah, I just struggling to overtake so slow on the straight.
You're looking at the battle between Tsunoda, Ocon, Leclerc, and Russell and Verstappen, I should say. Lawson missing out at the start, dropping a couple of places back, having to think about racing his teammate, wisely backing out of it, and Charles Leclerc was able to get through as a result. And Piastri went for the intermediate tyres in qualifying early, looked really strong with them, and we wouldn't have expected to be waiting behind Liam Lawson very long. He also has that very, very effective McLaren wing, but it's a high downforce option, and he can't overtake either. We're on board with the driver second in the race, second in the Drivers' World Championship.
Yeah, you can see that on board there. Like I was speaking before, the curb usage on the apex curve, very aggressive, but they're giving themselves a safe distance to the exit curbs. So many times drivers have been caught out on those slippery curbs, on acceleration in these wet conditions. Just no traction. And look, yeah, they're given plenty of space on the exit all over the apex. It's impressive how much grip these cars still have in these wet conditions.
So in the early laps in Canada, George Russell brilliantly led and then was pegged back by Verstappen and then Norris.
It's getting slippery with these worn tyres in the wet here.
And that's exactly what I was driving at Silverstone. Controlled things from pole position at the front, and then as this opening stint began, as the tyre tread went away from the intermediate tyres, Russell found himself under serious pressure, and it appears to be that way again. Into this phase of the race, Russell's superb driving comes under attack, and Norris is able to stay with him. He's 8 tenths of a second away as they pin it flat to the floor all the way to turn number 1.
You saw that difference on the tire life graphic earlier. Some drivers opting to start on a brand new set of intermediates, some on a used set, potentially from qualifying, maybe even just a scuff set. But this is going to play potentially into it later. You get 5 sets of the intermediates on a race weekend. Some of those would have been used in qualifying, but still a healthy number for all the drivers going into the Grand Prix.
I want to show you how much Russell is struggling in this phase of the race. The gap to Max Verstappen before was 12 seconds. It's come down to 11.2. Verstappen is catching the race leaders. He had clear air and didn't have the Ferrari, the Alpine and the V-Carb ahead. He'd be catching them.
We think the time might become slick to medium in maybe 6 or 7 laps or so. We need to get to the rain.
It's getting slippery with these worn tyres in the wet here.
Oliver Behrman trying to take it away, and the battle of the two Brits that we didn't expect at the start of the weekend is resolved in favour of Oliver Behrman. So Sainz has gone through past Hamilton as well. Hamilton was trying to retake the place from Colapinto, who took 12th a couple of laps ago, with a strong move at the centre S's after Hamilton had gone off. And we're going to see at that corner again, are we? Lewis Hamilton again with the lock-up, say goodbye to Colapinto, and it gave the opportunity to Carlos Sainz, and that is why Hamilton was trying to defend against the Haas, but Behrman able to get through.
I mean, he's just had so many issues down there. So many drivers have, to be fair, in turn 12 in the wet conditions, but no one as often as Lewis Hamilton, and that was a big chop there from Lewis, but Oliver committed on the brakes there. A little bit of correction going in, but gives him lots of racing room on the exit. He's absolutely got the bit between his teeth. A little maybe disproving of that penalty, and I'm actually kind of with him.
We think the time might become slick to medium in maybe 6 or 7 laps or so. We need to get to the rain and then make the right time when to stop.
Just my opinion. I don't write the rules. I don't enforce them.
Well, the rules are coming under serious inspection this weekend. This is Carlos Sainz, who started from the pit lane. Had to take a new gearbox, had to take the new power unit after a tough moment in qualifying when he spun into the wall. Slow speed spin for Sainz, but it cost him. He made contact. But still 1.5 seconds for the lead of the race.
Yeah, car's not driving everything. It was rocking up, bouncing everywhere. Understood.
Yeah, if the car's bouncing aggressively, if it's bottoming aggressively, anytime the car hits the bottom with the floor, hits the ground with the floor, it's taking pressure off the tires. That makes it so much easier to lock up, and obviously Hamilton just struggling with the characteristics of that Mercedes right now.
Yeah, it really is. Lap 21 of 70. 2 stories of the race so far, maybe 3.
George Russell got the lead early on. Lando Norris able to stay in the wheel tracks. Max Verstappen slicing through the field for fun, minimising the damage of his worst qualifying start of the year. Looked like the rain was really coming down. They were talking about waiting for this rain, wearing through the intermediate tyre, going through the rubber, but then it becomes what you heard on the radio as a slick to media. It's a worn tyre, gives you more contact patch as you wear out the grooves, essentially. But if it begins to...
Car's not driving a little bit. Rocking up, bouncing everywhere.
Understood.
That was the message to Lando, wasn't it? Was we've got to make it to the rain. Then we can come in, make an educated decision on which tires to put on. And this, again, this is what makes these days so difficult. You just don't know exactly when it's going to come. You're trying to just make these intermediates last as long as possible to open up the strategy options. But sometimes that's easier said than done. A big wiggle now from Leclerc. Verstappen closing in.
We've revised the length of the race. Remember, we had 2 formation laps, one intentional, one a bit rogue and under investigation. We go down to 69 laps. That's been revised because the cars can't refuel, but the cars can attack, especially when they're being driven by Max Verstappen. Then he's putting together a champion's drive, but this time he's on the outside, and Charles Leclerc will defend for all he's worth. Verstappen knows there's a long way to go in this race, even if you take a lap off the count.
Brilliant display there from Leclerc, committed on the brakes. You know how good Max is into turn 1, and he was able to just stay ahead. But also, man, it was brave for Max to just hang around the outside, forcing Charles to break that late. It would have been so easy for him to just walk up, drive Max right off the racetrack, cost them both a lot of time. But, well, he's close now. Is he going to send it into Fedadura?
That would have been the stuff of legends, and he has to stay in the realm of the logical there. We would have been talking about that forever. He's got the run on Leclerc.
He was squeezing onto the right line, not leaving a car switch.
We were nearly standing back in the commentary box when we thought he was going to send a lunge there. And there's a wide moment. This is just pure instinct for Verstappen. He is driving to his fullest capability for the first time in a long time. So many races this year since the Spanish Grand Prix, his last win, have been about minimising the damage, accepting the pace of the car. In conditions like this, the driver can make so much of the difference. And we're going across the line once again. This is the battle for 5th position. If Verstappen can get by, he is 14 seconds behind George Russell. He is 13 seconds behind Lando Norris.
Yeah, they're just starting to pull out a little bit. 3, 4, maybe 5/10 a lap from Russell back to this battle here. Yuki Tsunoda holding up the train, but doing a great job. Hasn't put a wheel wrong so far today. He's kept Esteban Ocon behind him. He's kept a Ferrari and a Red Bull behind him as well. Yuki doing a phenomenal job in these difficult conditions.
It's a Sao Paulo Grand Prix, the 21st of 24 for the World Championship of Constructors and Drivers in Formula One. This is Carlos Sainz, who started from
He was squeezing onto the right line, not leaving a car switch.
able to get close. Let's see what it looks like. And he's able to squeeze by. That was tight, but he got through.
It's uncomfortable, but you got to commit. You can't sort of half-foot it through there. Oh, now Esteban Ocon getting creative, getting desperate, impatient, wanting to get around that V-car, put the chase on to Norris and Russell ahead. And as these tires start to wear, mistakes are going to start to happen.
This is Esteban Ocon's best drive in Formula One since he took a podium for Alpine in Monaco last year. It was a terrific performance there. It was also an intermediate day that day. There's something about these conditions that brings the best out in the one-time Grand Prix winner, a man who had a great qualifying earlier on, which gave him the opportunity to fight for these positions. Charles Leclerc deep into the first turn, recovers for the second. We're also monitoring the progress of Oscar Piastri, who is now beginning to make inroads up against Liam Lawson, and there is 8.5 tenths of a second for the lead of the Grand Prix. This is turn 4 on the racetrack. Unexpectedly, Yuki Tsunoda running in third position. He has never scored a podium in Formula One. Tsunoda in his 4th season in the sport, the likeable Japanese driver, finding himself being compared to Liam Lawson in recent times. We're focusing on Lando Norris top left of your picture. Today, for Tsunoda, it is his 84th start in Formula One, and he is chasing his first podium. But Ocon, Leclerc, and especially Max Verstappen going to have something to say about that. A reminder, our top two, and Tsunoda and Lawson, all will be investigated after the race for that starting procedure infringement. I was going to say restart, but it wasn't a restart. No. It was a formation lap that never happened. They were never told to go on to a second formation lap. Rain is really hammering down. This now is where it gets tricky. Does Charles Leclerc come into the pits? Does he take on new tyres? He does. The Ferrari pits. He is no longer part of this battle. Up to 5th place goes Max Verstappen as the rain gets heavier in the final corners of the racetrack.
Good strategy from Ferrari. They had to get out of that terrain. They weren't making moves. If that rain is starting to come in heavier now, put those fresh tires on. Navigating wetter conditions on those worn intermediates, 25 hard laps already run on those, becomes very tricky. And now every team up and down pit lane will be keeping a very close eye on the kind of lap times Leclerc can start pumping out here. Low 124s have been the leader's pace.
Fox driver take it some point now. We can consider it. We'll think about it.
McLaren trying to extend the stint as much as possible. Behrman and Hamilton got past Leclerc on pit exit. Not ideal for the outlap for the Monegasque driver, who's racing up against Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon, but trying to keep Max Verstappen behind. Lando Norris coming alive in these conditions again. Slightly more rainfall in this part of the circuit before today. Russell's most laps led in a race this year were 20 in Canada when he went on to finish in 3rd. He's been in the lead of this one since lap number 1.
I think Fox. For what reason? Don't do as a box driver, take too much traffic.
No, it's just starting to rain a lot. If you want me to box, I'll stay out.
We think this tyre is going to be okay for a bit. We prefer to stay
Okay.
Yeah, and this is exactly why you have to have that conversation between the driver and pit wall. Lando wants to box. It's starting to rain. The tires are worn. What the team knows that Lando doesn't is if he were to pit now, where he would come out on the racetrack would be in traffic, and that is just going to hinder your ability to try to pull the undercut.
Fox driver take it some point now.
We can consider it. We'll think about it.
Things by the cheers from the grandstand, because the crowd were remarking on the man who did so well in qualifying, going deep into turn 1, and that's costed. The rain is hammering down now. Charles Leclerc went to the new tyres early on. He's trying to fire them up, but he is behind Behrman and Hamilton. That's restricting his pace, is the sentence I'm trying to get into the microphone here, as Lando Norris is trying to fight the car. And the team kept out there. These tyres are worn. They don't have the depth of groove that Charles Leclerc has taken on at the moment. And there's more water to evacuate from the racetrack. Verstappen trying to get past Ocon. When he's tried that to lap him in the past around here, those two have history. Those two had contact. And it cost Max Verstappen a win around here a few years ago.
You can see how much more rain there is when we're on that Norris onboard. The visibility is just deteriorating. Look at the slide coming off of turn 1, having to be so gentle, so ginger with your right.
I think box.
For what reason? Don't do as a box driver, take too much traffic.
No, it's just starting to rain a lot. If you want me to box, I'll stay out.
We think this tyre is going to be okay for a bit. We prefer to stay
Okay.
out.
Because of the weather, you want to stay out for as long as possible and maintain the position. Norris was not in a place to overtake before, but Russell is finding himself seriously under pressure. Piastri and Lawson have been noted for a turn 1 collision.
Lando Leclerc pitted for a new tyre. He went into traffic and cannot clear it.
Yeah, he cannot clear it, and as a result, his lap times are just exactly what the group in front of him is doing, and that's about the same pace as what the leaders, as we see a yellow flag now in Sector 1, Nico Hulkenberg.
It's got to be Hulkenberg. He is static on our driver tracker. Hulkenberg has spun. I can see it out the commentary box window. There he is as the rain hammers down. Hulkenberg is up on the old banking of the old circuit, and Hulkenberg, usually so reliable when the rain has gone off. Can the leaders make it through? It's getting right on the limit of what is raceable here. The talent of these great drivers on full display. Hulkenberg can't move the car. The yellow flag is waving because of that Haas that is beached on the old banking at the moment, and it looks like his race is going no further. This is all about keeping the car pointing in the right direction.
position, the virtual safety car is out to neutralize the race.
And this is exactly what McLaren was hoping for. Such a great call to stay out. Had they pit under full greens and Russell stayed out, he would have been able to take it.
Lando Leclerc pitted for a new tyre. He went into traffic and cannot clear it.
Hang on to it as those tires were deteriorating and the track conditions were getting worse.
So if you're in a terrible position compared to the normal pace of your car, like Piastri was, like Alonso was, you come in now to get the benefit of stopping under the virtual safety car. If you're out front and scoring major points, you are desperate to hang on to track position in case we get a full stoppage, and the weather really has changed here on lap 28 of 69. We reduced the lap count whilst Max Verstappen was battling Sergio Perez. Is full wet for Checo.
And that might be the right call. It has gotten so much heavier. The rain out of the commentary box, you can see it just pouring down. And I don't think it's even the worst on the front straight. Further back around the lap, it's even harder.
So Hulkenberg wisely, he's got to stay on the car. And now he's found some drive. So Control, Alt, Delete. And we go again.
That's all right.
Well done. We can reboot the cars, as we saw from the aborted formation lap that never was. The virtual safety car is ending, and George Russell cannot cope with the car on the circuit any longer. He comes into the pits. They take on the new tyres. I think they'll have to. Does anyone just take the risk of this being cleared, try and survive, and maybe race control throw a red flag to interrupt that, and they've given up track position? The top two felt the need to come into the pits and take on new tyres, and Russell gets out ahead. Esteban Ocon rolls the dice. He's hoping now for a full stoppage with these conditions. Russell and Norris didn't feel they could take this car any further on the tyres that they had, and now Ocon and Verstappen are desperate for a safety car or a red flag.
Oh, the timing is brutal. The safety car, the virtual safety car ending right as they came into the pits, allowed everyone else to get back up to speed, but look at how much more water has fallen. I'm surprised that one of these two didn't go for the full wet. Look at it. You can't even see down the straight.
Surely this is on the verge of being undrivable. Can Lando Norris make the corner? The incident involving Piastri and Lawson is under investigation. They must have made contact. I don't believe we've seen that yet in the race, but we did see Liam Lawson trying to recover to the circuit. Everyone is trying to tiptoe through the rain. That was Piastri clipping Lawson, spinning Lawson, and that will be an incoming penalty for the Australian driver, I believe, on the evidence of previous moves earlier this season, and that was the spin for Hulkenberg in the first turn. Esteban Ocon leads the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, and he's got Max Verstappen 6.4 seconds back. Verstappen going hyper cautious after an attacking race, and that is not a surprise to see. Piastri has a 10-second time penalty for the collision between Liam Lawson, who he knows well, spun round the RB. Ocon finding time, driving with full risk here, driving an inspired race, but he's barely full throttle on the main straight hitch.
And it's an Alpine 1-3 right now. Verstappen splitting the difference in second. He's got to be so careful, and this is where you are hoping for that stoppage. Like you said, the leaders really got hurt by the timing of the ending of that virtual safety car. You see that weather alert predicting lighter rain in 3 minutes. Can you hold on to your car in these conditions for 3 more minutes until it starts? Look at the water on the racetrack. They've absolutely got to be contemplating calling this one, which would be devastating for Russell and Norris.
Russell and Norris did not feel they could continue any further on the intermediate tyres. And look at the plumes of spray. Look at Lando Norris going through. It's barely raceable out there, but the British driver gets past his countrymen. That is a crucial move to move up to 4th position, but they're given track position to Pierre Gasly, to Max Verstappen, and to Esteban Ocon, and they are cheering once again out of the grandstands because the car control is too much, and the safety car is finally deployed to neutralize the race. There will be a benefit for anyone who pits at this stage under the reduced pace. Esteban Ocon leading a Grand Prix. He is a one-time Grand Prix winner, and the only time he has led more than one lap of a race, he won it. That was back in Hungary 2021. An extraordinary moment for a driver 19th
in the World Championship. He hasn't finished higher than the 9th all year. He hasn't broken the top 8 all year, and he is the lead car behind the safety car in this sensational Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Norris able to get by before the safety car could yet be a move of enormous consequence. I don't think he would have been even contemplating an overtake pinch. He was just trying to keep it pointing in the right direction.
I think he was trying to get out of the spray from George Russell just by, being offset there down the straight. Such was the level of spray coming off the car, the lack of visibility, and then all of a sudden he would have seen the rain light to his right and thought, all right, let me just keep in it for a little bit longer, get around, get by, and now you got a little bit more clean air.
All right, deep breath. Liam Lawson picking his way through the rain. It's Lewis Hamilton turning in, full wet for Liam Lawson. Lewis Hamilton trying to keep it going on that intermediate tyre. Wheel bang move into the first turn. I can tell you as well, Yuki Tsunoda is on the full wet tyre.
Tsunoda's, as you see, Lawson is. We saw Perez go to it, Joe and Hulkenberg on the full wet.
First lap, rain decreasing in 1 to 2 minutes.
Alpine hadn't completed a single lap in the top 5 until today. They've got both cars in the top 5. It was always going to be that type of race. This has been, statistically, one of the worst seasons in the history of the Enstone operation. They haven't put a car inside the top 8 all year long in the Grand Prix format. It's been a really tough campaign. They were plumb last at the start of the year, and yet, in the rain of Brazil, they lead the race on lap 31 of 69, and Colapinto has a 3.3-second stop. We are behind the safety car after George Russell took the lead from Lando Norris. Max Verstappen went maximum attack and has carved his way from 17th on the grid to 2nd in the race. He has the bonus point for fastest lap as well. The highest runner on the wet tyre is Yuki Tsunoda. We've seen Hulkenberg spin but then continue, and Norris, Russell, Tsunoda and Lawson are all under investigation for leaving the grid.
First lap, rain decreasing in 1 to 2 minutes.
Colapinto pit, and he took the intermediate. So that tells me that these teams really do believe it's going to get lighter. Those full wet tires may really struggle as it starts to dry. The pace falls off tremendously. And so they must have a lot of confidence that this weather's going to get better, because you see how treacherous it is out there right now. You saw how easily Liam Lawson was able to pass Lewis Hamilton there, who was on the intermediates, Lawson on the full wets. So you got to remember, right now, Norris, Russell on this restart, they at least have fresh intermediates. Gasly, Verstappen, Ocon in front. They do not. So there is going to be a massive tire advantage on this restart if we do get a restart and don't go to a red flag condition for conditions. Sorry, I don't know.
It's all right. It's all right, mate. It was a very, very early start. It's a very, very dramatic day. I'm trying to get the words out in a coherent sentence. It's James Hinchcliffe. He started the Indy 500 from pole position. He's a 6-time winner in that championship, and he's guiding us through a day to remember. Big crash into the wall for Franco Colapinto. Another crash after qualifying. Saw both Williams hit the wall. That's how treacherous it is behind the safety car, and that will surely be an upgrade to a full red flag. Colapinto finds the barriers. It is a red flag. The race is interrupted with Esteban Ocon, the leader, Max Verstappen up 15 places, Gasly in third up 10, and Franco Colapinto is the second Williams out. That's the message I wanted to see. He is okay, but his Sao Paulo Grand Prix weekend is done. And you have to feel for the Williams mechanics who worked so hard to get him into the race. They started at 4 a.m.
End of a triple header. Started at 4 a.m., ended late last night, already had to try to repair 2 cars, abandoned 1. Alex Albon not even making the start because of the damage, and up through that incredibly fast final sector, through turns 13, as we talked about, flat out, no problem in the dry, don't even think about it. So slippery in these conditions. We saw him just put on those inters, cold tires through that section, has lost control, and that is an expensive weekend for Williams. Look at the damage to that car.
James Vowles was wincing earlier on, seeing damage to Alex Albon's car and Franco Colapinto putting that lovely crash helmet tribute to Carlos Reutemann, the last Argentine driver to win in Formula One, being applauded by so many of his countrymen who have made their way to the circuit. This is the moment that took him out. A reminder, this was reduced pace behind the safety car, but that is how easy it is. Look at the damage it did.
And he wasn't even up to speed yet. That was a much slower impact than I actually originally thought based on the part of the racetrack. But as you said, under safety car conditions, a little bit of an oversteer, well, major oversteer, and then just overcorrected, snaps back the other direction, and absolutely wallops the wall. And that's concrete. That's not a tire barrier. That's part of the reason that damage looks so extensive. Just brutal.
There's a key moment of the race where Norris and Russell both felt they had to switch to new intermediate tyres. It's promoted the Alpine of Esteban Ocon to the lead, Max Verstappen to second, and Gasly to third. Norris and Russell holding fourth and fifth. Here is Lando.
I guess everyone can just change tyres for free now,
They can.
No.
I was just about to bring up that point. The rules in Formula One, under a red flag condition, you can change tires in pit lane at no penalty. So for the cars that didn't pit, your top three, Ocon, Verstappen, and Gasly, it is a free pit stop. They can put on whatever tires they want, and on this restart, it'll be even, well, actually a little bit of even of an advantage over Norris and Russell, where previously it was Norris and Russell that had the tire advantage. So again, this is a rule that's come up a lot. It's one that I think needs to be looked at. A lot of drivers and teams have said the same thing, because you're just unnecessarily penalizing teams and drivers for having come into the pits on a normal program, but definitely rewarding the bravery of the Alpines and Verstappen right now.
Esteban Ocon finding himself as the race leader. The interruption on lap 33 of 69, a race which has had drama from even before the lights. There's Jack Doohan, who will be replacing Esteban Ocon in the team from next season as Lando Norris walks past, and the deflation in
I guess everyone can just change tyres for free now,
They can.
No.
If this is informed with what happened to him in Zandvoort last year, when Pierre Gasly got on the podium, but they sent Ocon out on full wet tyres, it dropped him down the order, and then as soon as you get to the necessity of a full wet tyre, often in a race, you get a red flag. And I wonder if that moment from Zandvoort last year, which cost him track positions, has played a part in him staying out today, because the reverse has happened. He's got the benefit of the red flag.
This is definitely something the teams think about. I was speaking to a Mercedes engineer on the grid, and he made the exact same point. By the time you have to switch to the full wet tire, it's usually pretty close to being red flagged. Now remember, that's not exactly what happened. We didn't red flag for bad conditions. We red flagged for a massive accident. So I don't want to say a stroke of luck, obviously not a lucky situation, but for them, the weather is supposed to be actually lightening up. If you take a look here, Piastri, I believe, on Lawson.
So yeah, this was the spin round for Liam Lawson. That was at the first turn. He was able to continue. This is the moment that we joined it trackside. Piastri just running out of patience to follow the New Zealander any longer. And then that put Lawson in the part of the racetrack that Lewis Hamilton was racing in. This is what it looked like from Oscar Piastri, and he got a 10-second penalty for this. Continues on his way, and then look at the difference on the onboard camera. A couple of laps later, Lawson trying to recover the place on the full wet, and then it was Lawson barging his way through, and that was intermediate tyre against full wet. And as you say, Hinch, we didn't get a red flag for the conditions, but the conditions often get so bad that if you're in full wet territory, it often leads to an accident, which leads to a red flag. Yeah, and I wonder if Alpine have bear that in mind. And it's a mid-race debrief for a man having an incredible Grand Prix so far, and all of the damage done this morning in qualifying is now undone. They'll have a free choice of tyres for the restart of the race, and he will have his nearest rival for the World Championship behind him.
Behind him and still under investigation post-race for that start procedure infraction. Pierre Gasly sitting in a podium position as it stands. But again, the rain out of the window looks like it has lightened up a bit. So once we get that injured Williams, I don't know if injured is maybe the right term, probably underselling it a little bit, off the racetrack.
I mean, that poor team must be running out of spares. Their third accident of the day. I mean, that is unbelievable.
Well, to put that into perspective a little bit, you know, the Mercedes team, and Toto Wolff had said coming into this event, we're done with upgrades for the year. We've had 3 big accidents we didn't plan for. That was Antonelli and Monza in FP1, and then the 2 Russell impacts both at Coda and in Mexico City. Crash damage bills add up. So make sure you're under the cost cap. We cannot really afford, literally, to bring any more upgrades. You think of what Williams has gone through today with 3 accidents. It's not great. It's a suboptimal financial situation to be in, but that's something these teams have to be so careful of and so considerate of when doing their budgets for the year. You might be all the way to the end, only a handful of races to go, but disaster can strike multiple times, evidently, in the last few races.
Yeah, tough stuff for so many teams. We love seeing the drivers on the limit as well. You don't want to see them driving to 97%. You want them with all the flair that we have seen across this season. This is George Russell peering through the spray.
So red flag, a red flag.
I said it! Should have stayed out.
Into the pit lane, follow the safety car.
It was that consideration. It was that choice. Do you take the risk of aquaplaning off the road as the race leader, getting to the new conditions first, or do you pit for new tyres that evacuate more of the water but give up track position? And that gamble has seen Russell drop to 5th.
It's that gamble tied into the fact that the timing of the ending of the VSC was so inconvenient for both Lando Norris and George Russell.
Great point.
They lost more time than a normal VSC pit stop. It was maybe half of the loss, you know, compared to a full green flag stop. But yeah, I mean, look, it is so easy from the race car to try to call something, right? I mean, conversely, you had Lando saying, hey, we need the box, we should have boxed by now. Had they done that, it'd be an even worse off position. You're seeing Russell saying, hey, well, we should have stayed out, I told you that. The team just knows more. And that's why you have to have that constant communication between the team and the driver.
We're going to have a pause up in the commentary box. Esteban Ocon is the race leader. We are under red flag conditions. Max Verstappen in 2nd. Pierre Gasly is in 3rd. Norris 4th. George Russell in 5th. We're going to take a breather. Will and Ruth, over to you. Do the great.
So red flag, a red flag.
I said it! Should have stayed out.
Okay. Into the pit lane, follow the safety car.
Pretty much all cleared up. The rain has almost entirely stopped.
Yeah, exactly. We a couple more laps and then we get to the half distance. A few more and we hit that 75% mark, after which we have 4 points awarded. Given the situation as it is now, I do think we're going to get 4 points today with everything we've seen, which I think they deserve, to be honest, thankfully, with a Sunday.
Now, we're talking about the jeopardy of a race like this. And of course, we heard George Russell just then really disappointed that they pitted when they did. Lando, of course, found him deflated as well, because now everybody gets a free choice of tyres underneath the red flag. But bringing that safety car out when they did, look, and we were talking about this before we came on air, an inspired choice, given that that rain has now stopped.
Yeah, you know, it's all about risk management, and obviously you never truly know what you would do if you were in it. But in that situation, right, the track was progressively drying. Even with a little bit more rain, actually, the cars were cleaning it up. It got to 114%. Obviously, nowhere near slick, but it was properly into conditions. Then we have this new rain cell going. And actually what the majority of those cars did, what those Alpines did so excellently, what Max did, and also guys further down the field, is they just slowed down. Actually, before that safety car, we were running at about 145%. So at a normal dry race, that's similar speeds to the one we'd be going on VSC. It is slow down, keep it on the black stuff if you possibly can, because time and time again, we have seen that the Inter is faster than the Extra, and we saw Charles pit and get stuck in traffic. So everyone was using that as an indicator to try and go on. And then that VSC, you know, the dangerous things about these VSCs is they can end, and they can end in the pit lane. And we've seen the race wins being lost before. It was a dry race, Canada, did a one-lap VSC, and Kimi Räikkönen lost it in the pits. So, you know, I mean, I think that you have to just be so proud of that Alpine team. You know, they really, really, really did such a great job. At Max 2, P17 to P2, one step better than 2016, which was only 16 to P3. Doesn't even sound that good now.
Max has been driving like a man possessed today. Beautiful racecraft, no DRS, just pure skill, pure talent, pure pace out there in those really awful conditions. But had we not had this red flag right now, it looked like the safety car would have absolutely held everybody until it got into a better position. And I'm just hearing we're seeing the issue that has given Nico Hülkenberg a black flag, I'm hearing, which is rare in Formula One. I cannot recall the last time we had a disqualification in a race. I was under the impression that it was impossible to give a black flag these days because you had to give a driver the right of reply, and you only get disqualified after a race. So that infringement clearly has irked the stewards today. Some interesting decisions coming down from the stewards. The Ollie Behrman one as well. Quite an interesting one, given that, as the guy said, Ollie seems to do more damage to his own race than to Franco's.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Without the exact rule book in front of me and all the camera angles, I would hasten to comment. But you know, I felt like with Ollie's one, yeah, it looked a little harsh. But again, you know, as a commentator, we have half the information. You know, the people that are giving out these penalties have all the information, and the teams will have a right review. So if they feel like it was wrong, they can obviously go through, raise it in the next race. But I mean, it's almost like that felt like that happened 12 years ago, didn't it? In terms of that race, the way that it ebbs and flows, and now obviously going into the second half of the race, you know, it's not over for Ollie. It's not over for any driver out there. Every single driver that is still in there, whether you're in P1 or right at the back of that pit lane, it can still change. Remember Hockenheim. Yeah. Remember that Kvyat came from right to the back to being on the podium. It's not over. It's never over.
And here's the thing, it's not over because we're not even at half race distance yet. Essentially, this is a race reset. Everybody can go again. You can fix whatever damage there is on your car. You choose what tyres you have, but those tyres are going to be limited. And if the rain continues to ebb and flow, how much choice remains for these teams on what they go out on and what they have to change to potentially later in what remains of this Grand Prix?
So if teams have the choice, typically, you know, 9 times out of 10, they will choose the Inter tyre because the Inter tyre is faster. And if you start on an X-Ware, you always have to do an additional pit stop. Lest we forget Singapore 2017, when all the guys that started on X-Ware, even though they were faster, lost out to the guys on Inter because they have to stop onto it. So that's another 20-second penalty unless you get another red flag. I think now we've seen 30 laps on an Inter tyre. We've seen that on this new track surface, it's wearing down to that Inter slick. And actually in those conditions, it was fine before the new rain came. And then it was a case, even honestly, when the rain was very, very heavy, the majority of those cars just slowed down and kept it on the track, and they were able to follow the safety car. Yes, we had an incident, but I think going into it, people are going to want to fit that into, if they have the choice to do so, if the conditions stay as they are now, and we get restarted when this rain cell has passed, and they're going to be looking to try to get that one home or to the next interruption.
We were talking about this in the pre-race show, the fact that Esteban Ocon comes alive in these kind of conditions to hold that car in the lead of this race as conditions got worse on a slick to mediate or into slick, however we want to term it. An incredible drive from him as we hit 10 minutes now to race restart. Great job from Esteban, great job from Alpine, P1, P3 right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many good people down in Alpine. Like, they've had a tough triple header. Remember, like, the mechanics, they don't go home. They've been away for a month. I saw them looking weary at 4 a.m. this morning, and they look a little bit happier now. Both Pierre and Esteban are in a great position. I hope they can bring it home with points.
I really feel for the girls and boys down at Aston Martin and at Williams. You say a 4 a.m. start. That's not alarm call. That's starting work at the track this morning for all of them. The amount of work they put in to setting those cars up for qualifying, to rebuilding those cars to get them into the race. For Lance to not even make the start, and of course Franco to have that crash right now. I've seen a couple of the Aston folks and a couple of Williams folks, shoulders just completely slumped and exhausted at the end of these 3 weeks away from home.
Yeah, I mean, in 24 hours, they'll all be home with their families, drivers and the teams. and they're going to be rallied. And actually, of all the teams in the pit lane to have a bad day, they're kind of in no man's land with the championship. So because they're kind of like solidly in their position in the championship. So I think, you know, so you always have to, you know, sleep on it, see how you feel tomorrow. And you still got a great race. You still got a great race.
Yeah, we do. I just really felt for them all. It is shaping up to be an incredible second half of the race, as you were saying. Inter, the tire to start on right now, would you say? The rain, when we looked out in the pit lane, when we looked back over the racetrack itself, it has gone from being a deluge to nothing. Completely clear within the space of that red flag being called.
Yeah, and remember, guys, what we say now can change again, probably another 3 times. Which is the great thing about here, is that you have a plan, and then you have to adjust based on what's happening there. Your risk versus reward changes what's important to you. You know, what's the correct call for a Lando or a Max isn't necessarily the correct call for a midfield team. There's not always one correct answer. But remember, everything can be reset. The glorious thing about this track is if we have a safety car, we have a red flag with 10 laps to go, you make the right decision or the wrong decision, everything can change. It is not over for anyone until you cross that line. And we have an investigation after the race.
We do. We'll get into that on the post-race show. But for now, we have the potential of a Lando Norris chasing a Max Verstappen for the podium, potentially the win. They've had blows this year, but also a Max Verstappen versus an Esteban Ocon. They have had contact here and a punching match on the Weybridge after the race. It's not necessarily going to be the friendliest second half of this Grand Prix. We're getting closer to race restart time. Time for us to send it back up to you guys in the box.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Ruth. Thanks for staying with us, everyone. Now, I'm hearing reports down in the pit lane that the rubber gloves are out for Esteban Ocon, so that could be an electrical problem. Not Esteban Ocon, sorry, he's our race leader. For Sergio Perez, who is in the second Red Bull. Sorry about that, if you're an Esteban Ocon fan or an Alpine fan. So it's Ocon, Verstappen, Gasly, Norris, Russell, Tsunoda, Leclerc, Piastri, Alonso, Lawson, Hamilton, Bottas, Sainz, and then the driver I was talking about, Sergio Perez. The order for the restart has been issued. It will be a rolling start, and confirmation that Hulkenberg receives outside assistance to be pushed off the lip of the tarmac between Old Track and New Runoff, which is why he's shown the black flag. That flag is to disqualify a driver from the race. We believe it's the first time the black flag has been shown to a driver since 2007, so fairly rare. But on this day, not surprising in any way at all. We're under red flag conditions, and we are now into the 10-minute restart procedure. So, Norris and Russell would have been incredibly frustrated.
Red flag, red flag. That's awesome.
Has passed, and we're going to have a very wet track surface, but we do still have a air temperature of 20 degrees, track temperature is 25, and earlier on, James, we saw that the track dried out very, very quickly.
It did. I mean, these conditions lend itself, even without any real sunlight on the racetrack. There's a little bit of a breeze. It's just very, very warm. It's very muggy out there. And with Formula One cars circulating, that dry line can start to form pretty quickly. And that's bad news for the likes of the V cars, Tsunoda and Lawson, for Sergio Perez, and for Zhou Guanyu, who are all on those full wets. Because they were trying to account for this condition right here, which is what was happening when they put them on. But now the rain has stopped. It's definitely the wrong tire for right now, because as we talked about, those full wets, they just overheat so easily as soon as it starts to dry up at all. If there's not a ton of water on the racetrack, that tire just falls apart and bleeds lap time. So strategically, it's all sort of fallen apart. The bad timing of that red flag for the V-Card group, which is so unfortunate. Such a strong start, a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity. Look, it's not done. Still half a Grand Prix to go, but it's definitely a blow right now.
We're approaching 3 minutes to 2 local time in Sao Paulo, and the rain has cleared for the moment. It continues to fall out there, but it's only spots. This is the lightest it's been since about 6 o'clock this morning. So everyone getting a break in the weather. And now let's have a quick break and hear from Lance Stroll, who found himself starting all the chaos in his front off on the formation lap earlier.
Lance, sorry to see you here at this point. Can you just talk us through what happened on that formation lap?
Yeah, really strange. As soon as I touched the brakes, we just had a huge rear lock, and then I was a passenger from there. So I never felt out in the car. So
That's my song with my lyrics on Apple Music streaming, and I did it with this joke.
Music is 150 stores, all the major streaming services.
We're talking Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, Tidal, you name it.
And my favorite thing.
Thanks, Lance.
So Lance Stroll spun into the barriers and then beat
100% of your earnings to you directly.
Confusion. It led to
I gotta spell it out for you.
formation lap.
Go download this track here right now.
The start procedure was abandoned. No green lights illuminated on the gantry. It's left Norris and Russell, Sonoda and Lawson under investigation after the race. And that could yet expand the difficult one.
The Sao Paulo Grand Prix is underway, and they made from the line. Good reaction time for George Russell. The lead for George Russell. The Mercedes man gets by. Esteban Ocon forces his way past the two V-Cubs, or at least he's trying to. Yuki Tsunoda hangs on to then it's Lando Norris. Yuki Tsunoda is in third. Esteban Ocon put pressure on, but couldn't force his way by. Then it's Charles Leclerc up a place. Liam Lawson down a position, and Piastri got past Alonso.
Now two former rivals, Verstappen and Hamilton, going at it as Verstappen's trying to claw back some positions there. That Liam Lawson move on Fernando Alonso.
Rivalry in European Formula 3 when Ocon took the title, and it was Max Verstappen's first ever season of car racing in 2014. Ocon had to watch Max Verstappen climb straight to Formula 1. Ocon sideways route, went to GP3, won that title with a single victory, and then later on climbed into a manor and has raced for the Enstone team with distinction. He's raced for what used to be known as Force India in the past as well, and he's moving to Haas for next year. He is our race leader.
So Lando, at the restart time, there's possibly class 1 to 2 rain for 10 minutes, and then nothing after that.
So there's a little bit of confusion about when we're going to get the rolling restart. 14:02 is the message. It had been set back to 14:06, but we are sticking with 14:02, and that is in a minute and 10 seconds time. So we're sorting the order out of everyone out there, and the race will resume at 2 minutes past the hour. 2 minutes past 2, and 33 laps of 69 will resume with Esteban Ocon, our race leader.
Joe Guan Yu out there unlapping himself, essentially was pushed to the front of the queue and sent out so that he could get on par with the rest of the field. He will line up at the back. If you take a look here, the race winner from last week in Mexico, Carlos Sainz, not having the smoothest day today down in P13.
So Stroll spun out on the formation lap. Alex Albon crashed out in qualifying. They were unable to repair the car in time. Hulkenberg has been black flagged. Franco Colapinto hit the barrier under the safety car. Joe Guan Yu is the 16th and final car.
So Lando, at the restart time, there's possibly class 1 to 2 rain for 10 minutes, and then nothing after that.
A team that hasn't put a car in the top 8 all year. Alpine have 2 cars in the top 3 as we resume things. And Max Verstappen, you could see it on his face. He knows what that stint in this Grand Prix has done for his championship challenge. We are back underway. Green light at the end of the pit lane. It will be a rolling start across the line. Ocon, Verstappen, Gasly, Norris and Russell after a lengthy delay, after a big impact. The Argentine driver, Franco Colapinto, the most important thing is that he is all right. And the rain has come down. It has now cleared, but the track surface still holding a lot of water.
You know, I realize I misspoke a little earlier when we were talking about the V-cars and Perez, all the drivers on the full wets. You can change under red. So that will have been fixed. They're probably back onto the intermediate, so I apologize for the confusion on that. It has not undone their day as it maybe looked like before. Lawson still trying to make a comeback from that contact with Oscar Piastri, getting spun around in turn 1. Penalty for Piastri on that. Ollie Behrman also with a 10-second penalty, I guess. don't think they pit yet. Piastri has pit. They would have served that penalty in the pit stop. Behrman as well.
Yeah, Behrman has made that stop as well. So Esteban Ocon started this Grand Prix in 4th position, up 3 places. Max Verstappen started this Grand Prix in 17th and is now getting close to the front of the field, and a standout victory which would put one hand on the championship trophy. Long way to go.
Which center is this? Hello?
I wonder if that question got the team looking at one another thinking, wait, was it not? I mean, what gender is this? And that's why there was a brief delay in the response, but our timing screen is showing that it's a new winter, so not sure what it is that Carlos is seeing that makes him believe that it isn't. And now we've got Verstappen trying to size up Esteban Ocon on this restart. Probably feels like he owes him one here after that battle back in 2018.
Verstappen trying to win for the first time since the Spanish Grand Prix back in June. Esteban Ocon trying to win just his 2nd victory in Formula 1. And we have the yellow flag, a problem for Oliver Behrman, who's slipping and sliding all over the road. But it's up to Esteban Ocon. He's not the only one as well. That was Joe Guan Yu off the road. It's still very wet out there, but the green flag flies at Sao Paulo once again. Esteban Ocon takes us back to racing conditions, and there's a good opportunity further back in the pack for a pass. Side-by-side moves further back, but the top 5 are in the same order. Charles Leclerc got up to P6. So Tsunoda drops down to 7th, then Piastri trying to power through as well. So the only change in the order was Charles Leclerc managing.
Ricky, this is not the winter. Which center is this? Hello?
Lando Norris, can he stay ahead of George Russell? They go into turn number 5, a moment of massive consequence, and who's going to get the inside line into the high-speed corner? Norris has to back out of it, round the outside to take the place, goes George Russell, down to 5th, goes Lando Norris, up to 4th goes Russell.
Big commitment from George on the brakes there. As we see the Ferrari going off now, that's Charles Leclerc going wide. That's going to allow Piastri now to try something on the outside. Cannot make it stick. Charles able to hold on to that position, but a botched attempt at turn 4 for Norris goes wide, opens that door for Russell, and big commitment on the brakes into 6 for George. Brilliant stuff.
Ocon has a lead of 1.7 seconds. They will be firing up this intermediate tyre and assessing the grip level. Piastri got past Tsunoda. That is why he's attacking Charles Leclerc, who got past Tsunoda into the first turn as well. A dramatic restart lap. Norris off at turn number 4. Russell with full commitment to take back the place that he lost earlier on. And now this is further back, very close between Alonso and Hamilton in the battle for 9th position. I promise you, through the spray, they are there. Here's Hamilton, and Hamilton's going to get that move done. Finally, some good news for the 7-time world champion. He's finally going on the attack and up to 9th place.
Yeah, you could just see it looked like Fernando had to lift a little bit more through that section, 13-14, and it just allowed Hamilton to get close, get up into the gearbox. I mean, look, we talk about the draft. We're not really using the draft here right now just because of the spray being so bad. You really want to offset from the car in front of you, but Hamilton is able to carry more throttle in that high-speed section, easily get the pass done before turn 1, and now he's sizing up the V-carb of Yuki Tsunoda, 3rd place starter, held that position for a long part of the Grand Prix off the start. And look at Hamilton, is he thinking around the outside? Is he thinking about diving inside?
The rain is still very, very heavy from the spray of the cars. It doesn't appear to be falling. This is all surface from the deluge that we had earlier on. This will clear if we can get a succession of racing laps. Talking of laps, Esteban Ocon does not need telling twice. He might not get a chance like this for a very long time. That was an epic restart lap when he needed it, and he's got the lead by 2.6 seconds. Now, Hamilton putting the pressure on Yuki Tsunoda, who doesn't have the form on this tyre that he's had earlier in the race.
Yeah, I was just going to say right before Norris went off there how impressive it was on that restart. Esteban Ocon keeping back championship leader and 3-time champion Max Verstappen. Same with Gasly, was keeping Norris at bay before he made that mistake. So both Alpines just performing admirably right now. And as you say, Tsunoda not quite the same pace as Hamilton. He is just struggling with the back of that car. We saw that at turn 12, trying to get the power down, just really struggling. But man, he is brave on the brakes right now and committed, trying to make his way past the V car.
But there was the message that the rain would be heavy for the first 10 minutes of racing action, and then it is expected to clear. It's not as heavy as we've seen earlier in the weekend. Oliver Behrman, who's been in that car occupied by Carlos Sainz earlier in the year when he substituted for the Spaniard and scored points in Saudi, is chasing him for 13th position at the moment. There's different risk level being taken, and there's the evidence off the road into the tarmac runoff for Oliver Behrman, who nudges the barriers. Can he escape from there to keep his race going? But you could see some drivers were cautious, some were attacking, and for Behrman, that's the result.
I mean, it's full commitment. At that point, he was just having a great little battle back and forth with Sainz as he's able to get the car rolling again, but it's been a bit of a messy one for Behrman. He's had penalties already for avoidable contact, and now this moment. Let's take another look back. Just gets that one initial snap, doesn't correct it all the way, kind of carries that drift for a while, and eventually the rear just giving up all the way around. He hit fairly square, though. Still a little bit of damage probably on that front wing. It's more of a time loss for him, all the way down to 16th and last on the road.
Yuki Tsunoda in 8th position, Lewis Hamilton in 9th. This is the battle that we're looking at the moment. Out front, Esteban Ocon leads by 3.4 seconds. Max Verstappen getting stabilized and up and running in these torrential conditions. Pierre Gasly is 2.3 seconds ahead of George Russell. They have not put a car in the top 8 of any Grand Prix all year. Alpine, they have 2 cars on the podium as it stands. But you are one wide moment, one oversteering moment away from losing your position. And you can see Hamilton trying to take that wide line, trying to stay away from the rubbered-in part of the racetrack. And he's all over the back of the Japanese driver. He had his best ever Formula 1 qualifying earlier today, starting P3 on the grid. Understandably, for what is normally a midfield running car, he has slipped back, and Hamilton, having really not enjoyed the car on full tanks, is now able to be a little more attacking.
You remember early in the race, Hamilton was complaining of the bouncing, the lack of grip. We saw him go off a few times down in turn 12 right here, but he seems to be handling it a little bit better now, a little bit more comfortable, but still struggling on the track. And look at those big wiggles. That's exactly where Colapinto had that moment, but this with the cold intermediates, overcorrected, found himself in the wall, but it is still incredibly treacherous out there right now on these intermediate tires. And Yuki doing a great job, keeping a 7-time champion behind him in these incredibly difficult conditions. As we see a yellow in sector 3, we think maybe Ollie Behrman had another moment.
Yeah, Behrman, this is his first time racing in the rain in Formula 1, and he was off at turn 12, having spun into the barrier at turn 6. A dramatic shot that we were following live at the time. The gap is stabilised out front. At the moment, there is a point swing towards Max Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship. And McLaren doing what they need to, marking off Ferrari at the moment. So this is further on from the drama that we saw earlier on in the lap, and a lock-up for Behrman that sent him off the road.
Yeah, both fronts immediately locked up. Wasn't just hanging up the inside. It's so slick down there. Again, that's the corner we've probably seen the most issues with throughout the weekend when we've been running in the wet. I guess the weekend, throughout the day. I mean, it's only been wet today, but it feels like today's gone on for several.
Well, I hope you're enjoying all the racing action. This order could get changed entirely. We could get a totally different podium. We have seen a sensational storming drive through the field from Max Verstappen to second place. He's beginning to chip away at the lead for Esteban Ocon in dry conditions. He'd be passing Alpine immediately, but this is far from a normal dry race. We're on board with Carlos Sainz, who won in Mexico City a couple of days ago, 7 days ago, and he is peering out of the spray, trying to make the move on Sergio Perez, whose spin on the opening tour seems a very long time ago. Perez in 12th, Sainz in 13th. Colapinto, Hulkenberg, Albon and Stroll are the retirements. After a couple of moments, Behrman is now the last runner.
If the weather stays as it does, we think it'll be these tyres to the end. So it'll be about tyre condition and racing cars on track.
That's a big ask for a set of intermediates. 30 laps left The tires on Lando Norris had 6. Everybody had 6. They all changed during that red flag. Oh, and we see the Ferrari going around.
Into the wall again for the second time today. Carlos Sainz can't keep it on the road. He had his most complete performance 7 days ago in Formula One. It's been a tough outing, and he spins into the barrier to bring out the safety car once again on lap 40, and all the effort to repair the car. His frustrated faces down at Ferrari. Carlos Sainz finds himself unclipping the steering wheel. Another retirement in this enthralling Grand Prix, interrupted once again, this time by the spinning Spaniard.
But based on the message we just heard to Lando Norris, wouldn't expect anybody to come in. Everybody's pretty much on the same, well, everybody is on the exact same program, same tire, same age of tire. They're going to try to make this go the remaining 29 laps of this Grand Prix. So it's about tire management to a certain extent here. So this is just a...
If the weather stays as it does, we think it'll be these tyres to the end. So it'll be about tyre condition and racing cars on track.
Way to see what happened here, up over 7, and just immediately rear lockup into 8. That was a big hit. The cars just don't slow down in these conditions. The track's what you see braking on the white line. We talked about that a little bit earlier. The curbs, the paint, whether it's on the line or the curbs themselves, can be so slippery in these conditions. And I mean, it locks so fast. It's like somebody pulling the handbrake on you as you're turning into your driveway, and there's just nothing you can do when the track surface is like that.
It is high grip paint around every Formula One circuit that gets the grade that you need. But still, in these conditions, the amount of rainfall that we've had today and yesterday, high grip is sometimes still incredibly precarious. Dip a wheel on there, round you go, end of the race, and we form up again behind the safety car. There is one Ferrari now battling 2 McLarens in the live constructors' points, thanks to that moment.
Before all this broke out, we were just talking about the impressive run that Ocon was having. He had almost a 3-second gap over Verstappen that he had pulled out since the red flag restart. Now we're going to have another restart. That gap is gone, but again, the advantage that you have having clean air in front of you, having no spray in front of you, is massive. So right now, not only does he have clean air, more downforce on the car, just unimpeded view. And when you're dealing with where to place the car, puddles, standing water, maybe running water across the track, that can be such an advantage. And we saw that 3-second gap almost he was able to pull out. So impressive. And we just take a look there at the potential change as they run in the Constructors' Championship.
This would be the equivalent of rolling a double six for Alpine. They are staring at their worst season with no top 8 finishes since 1985.
This is what I'm saying, mate. One lap, things could look rosy. Next lap, we're all bunched together. Anything can happen. Still a very long way to go. Keep your head down, keep focused. 29 laps remaining.
Epic delivery of a really important message. The work has been sensational, but it is not completed for Max Verstappen and Red Bull.
No, it's all rosy right now, but as GP said there, one lap it can be rosy, one lap it can all come completely undone, as we've seen it happen now for a multitude of drivers in this Grand Prix. That's the 5th retirement so far. Sainz, Colapinto, Hülkenberg, Albon, and Stroll out before it even started. Here's Lando Norris.
There's been lots of offs. Most of them are white lines.
Would you want that info?
Absolutely. That is such crucial information. We talked earlier, Lando especially being incredibly aggressive on those apex curves. The entry curves and the exit curves, you got to be a little bit more gentle with, and so for sure you want that information as a driver. Every bit of info you can get on track conditions, maybe certain corners where people have been struggling.
This is what I'm saying, mate. One lap, things could look rosy. Next lap, we're all bunched together. Anything can happen. Still a very long way to go. Keep your head down, keep focused. 29 laps remaining.
That information to his driver, Lando Norris, that has been working really well. He's been giving the information at the crucial moments. And there are crucial moments coming the way of the field. The incident involving car 55, that is Carlos Sainz, has been noted
terms of...
Lando, there's been lots of offs. Most of them are white lines.
There is another band of rain potential for the end of the race.
Even more of it, Hitch. Even more of it.
Why
coming
not?
our way.
Come on, why not? Let's throw a little more at them. Can we get a tornado in the area? Like, what else is there to throw onto this Grand Prix?
It has been remarkable stuff since opening practice to lap 42. The safety car is ending. We believe the incident noted for Carlos Sainz was for the marshals touching the car in an attempt to get back into things. So they're going to have a look at that. That's procedural stuff. They are still looking at the procedure at the very start of the race. We want to remind you of that because it could yet affect our order, but we're going to get some great racing now. Now, Ocon has passed this exam once. He's got to do it again. Verstappen has seen the tactics. Does he go more aggressive now, trying to stay with? Because it was a great restart lap last time for the man that we're on board with.
I mean, is Max ever not aggressive? I mean, at this point, a second place, if Norris stays down at fifth, is great for him. It's great for his championship campaign. But I don't think he is thinking that way. I think he is an absolute racer, and he's going to try to get around the Alpine and go for that victory and really put an exclamation point on this championship.
Yes, really, the revving of the Alpine. The last moment of relative silence before the roar of V6 engines will reverberate around the Autodromo Carlos Pache, named...
There is another band of rain potential for the end of the race.
Remember, Ocon leaving it late, but Ocon leaving the field behind. They're very tightly bunched up in the background. There's a big opportunity for Charles Leclerc. There's a big opportunity for George Russell, but a better one for Max Verstappen, who finds himself taking the lead as Lando Norris has gone off the road. The championship pendulum swings in one corner. Piastri gets past Norris, who drops down to 7th position as Verstappen goes from 17th on the grid to the lead in Brazil.
From bad to worse for Lando Norris. Not only does Verstappen take the lead, he falls back as now the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso trying to hang on the outside, flirting with that white line that we just saw take out Carlos Sainz, but an incredible move from Max. We talked about it. That aggression was there. He went for it as Hamilton defending now against Liam Lawson at the top part of the racetrack, and now Lawson coming back on the inside into turn 8.
Can he find his way past Hamilton? Hamilton's deep. Hamilton's nearly off. Alonso is off as well and gaining another place as they are swapping the order. Far more aggressive on this second restart than before, and now it's Piastri in 6th, Norris in 7th, Tsunoda is in 8th, Lawson got past the pair, and Alonso is the last of the point scorers at the moment as Behrman, who was scrambling all over the road, is trying to overtake Lewis Hamilton. These two going wheel to wheel once again. This time off the road is Fernando Alonso once more. This is an inexplicable Grand Prix as Alonso tumbles out of 10th place and Perez takes the position. We have a yellow flag in sector 3 for that moment. We're on board with George Russell, who is fighting all the while trying to get on terms with Charles Leclerc.
And you just see how bad the visibility is out of the front of Russell's car, trying to just make out the flashing lights on the attenuator on the back there of the Ferrari of Leclerc. It's so difficult at those speeds to pick out where the race car is. You've got to be so aware of the surroundings because it can go south so quickly if you're not keeping track of the cars around you.
Max Verstappen from 17th on the grid to the lead of the Grand Prix. An incredible run through the field in difficult conditions. This was Fernando Alonso further back a few moments ago. That was him off the road at turn 12. He did rejoin. He's now the last car running.
Had a little pirouette before he got going again. We've seen how slick the grass is, obviously, when you're out there, and luckily was able to keep it rolling, but turn 12 just being the problem corner today. Luckily, no wall there, and we haven't lost the car to that corner yet, but we've certainly had a few mishaps.
Esteban Ocon produced wonders on the restart lap. The first restart lap that we had to leave Max Verstappen behind, but you knew Verstappen would have noted the tactics, where he pushed, and it was a late restart, but it was a great restart. for Max Verstappen, who has a 2.2 second lead now. And what a turnaround from the morning to the afternoon. Verstappen, Ocon, Gasly, Leclerc, Russell, Piastri and Norris is the order. The points currently completed by Tsunoda, Lawson and Perez. But what a headline Verstappen has written here. It is so significant in terms of the drive and the World Championship.
As it stands, this race is not yet done and anything can change. Let's take another look at this move. Again, he wasn't even sizing him up on the entry. His braking point was just so much later, so much less pressure, able to just get the move done. You see a little squiggle there from the Ferrari. Norris coming back on track just behind his teammate. I wonder if we're going to see that swap happen soon. Let Piastri move over, get Norris into some cleaner air, let him start trying to attack the cars in front. Almost a moot point, though, if Verstappen's able to keep himself out front right now.
The smiles are wide down at Red Bull because they have seen something sensational from their champion. As James Hinchcliffe points out, man of many races through the years, he's seen plenty of things change on the last lap, and now Perez is the driver that we're focusing on. He is racing Liam Lawson. Max Verstappen has the fastest lap, and all of a sudden, it is 3 seconds the lead he has in this contest.
Verstappen was 9/10 of a second quicker than Ocon on that last lap, and Ocon was the second quickest person, as you see the command now from McLaren to swap positions. That was expected. They didn't wait too long, which is the right thing to do now. Lando's got to be head down, attacking Russell.
We've seen so many errors today from drivers with incredible experience, and that's Russell up to 4th. That's George Russell up to 4th position on the timing tower. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. There it is. And Russell is able to get past Charles Leclerc. And is there another error there? You know when Alonso's off the road multiple times in qualifying in the Grand Prix with these tricky conditions? It might be lap 46 and 69, but things can change late, and Lando Norris just has to get his head down and try and undo the damage. As we have seen throughout all of Super Sunday today, things can change in an instant.
And Lando has to push. He's got to be aggressive. He's got to take risks at this point in the Grand Prix. With Verstappen up front, it's the only hope he's got to keep his battle going any further realistically. So it is time for Lando to don't think, just do. Don't worry about it. Just absolutely put the head down, put the hammer down, be aggressive, take risks, and try to make some ground up after that issue. And he's sizing up the Ferrari, not quite close enough to do it into one this time.
A superlative motor race works on to its 47th lap. Max Verstappen leads the field once again. He hasn't won a Grand Prix since back in June. Esteban Ocon is trying to fend off his teammate. The incident involving Charles Leclerc at turn 4 has been noted for rejoining unsafely. So that is how he lost the position to George Russell. I'm sure we'll clear it up with a replay in a few moments' time. Maybe right about now. Oh, go on. Less than a few. Yeah, let's find out. I didn't know that was coming, honestly. So this is Charles Leclerc, the swap on, off the road, and Russell got through.
Let's see the dangerous re-entry here. Yeah, I feel like we saw that, maybe even worse already in this Grand Prix. I'm surprised that one was noted when the others weren't. Don't expect that to be an issue. Russell didn't have to lift, didn't have to go off track to avoid the Ferrari, so no harm, no foul there.
Max Verstappen just watching the pace now. 0.3 of a second faster last time around. George Russell ahead of Leclerc. He will be hoping to put the pressure on the Alpines, but whatever setup they went for with Alpines, it is effective. And Verstappen devastating on the brakes, like he was against Oscar Piastri earlier on in the race, catching out Esteban Ocon, who was always going to fight that, knowing that Verstappen needed to think of the Drivers' World Championship, and he was through before he could even glimpse into the mirrors through the spray. And it's given Ocon a chance of a 4th career podium, with the 2nd win for the moment slips through his fingers.
It's just amazing how different this looks than lap 1 and where we started this Grand Prix with Verstappen down in 17th position, Norris on the pole. It has just turned on its head several times throughout this race already. It just shows you how unpredictable Formula 1 can be when you throw a little bit of inclement weather into the mix.
Norris usually riding in these conditions. There were hints in Q1, slightly wide there. There will be different lines from different drivers in these conditions, but there were hints in Q1 that he was racing in the championship context, trying to improve as he went through. He spoke to you, James, of his relief after he took pole position, because he knew that was a day where you could easily go out in Q2, which is what happened to Max Verstappen. Then he took a grid penalty, but Verstappen from the off, from the moment that he released the clutch at the start of the Grand Prix, has been alive and electric and scything his way through the field at the moment to hold the race lead, and it's increasing. Fastest lap of the race belongs to him. We're looking at the battle. Can Lando now play the game of damage limitation? Perez is trying to line up Lawson on the left-hand side of your screen. The battle for 5th place is static, and there is no way by for the moment for Sergio Perez. Just want to remind you what Ferrari believe is going to happen at the end of the race. They believe there's more heavy rainfall to come before we see the checkered flag, as we settle into a bit of a rhythm after that second race and safety car restart. A rhythm, yes, that's true. We're slowly getting there. It's been a minute. It's been hard to get a consistent running order for a while. There's just been so much change up and down the grid. As you say, Perez now trying to line up Lawson, trying to make that happen. Both the Alpine drivers doing a phenomenal job right now. Big buffers both in front and behind for both of them, running in second and third. Checo trying to make up for an early spin. In the points right now, would love to get a little bit further up. Lawson ahead of Perez, ahead of Hamilton, in the battle for 9th position. Verstappen, after a couple of offs, at one stage it looked like he was spinning out of the race, finds himself in 12th. It has turned into a race of attrition around a classic venue, another fastest lap of the Grand Prix for Max Verstappen, and that would pay a bonus point. That would pay 26 points for Max Verstappen if he finishes in that position, and it would be for Lando Norris as it stands. 8 to his tally, and we knew that this was going to be a day that was going to give us a defining outcome. You just know when the conditions are like this, there is going to be a serious winner. It just seems to turn out that way. We don't know who it's going to be yet, but it is a great story written so far by Max Verstappen in the Hall of Fame drives that he's had, and he's had some sensational ones in his career. This is right up there. And still, Russell can't get on terms with the Alpines. It's 1.9 seconds, and we're looking at the scrap. Piastri's hurrying up Norris at the moment, only half a second away.
Yeah, I mean, Gasly doing a good job. Russell having a good chunk out of that gap on the last lap, about 6/10 faster than Gasly the last time around. But his swap with McLaren didn't really seem to work. Norris doesn't have the pace, it looks like, to attack the Ferrari. Piastri right on his gearbox. Looks like he does have more pace right now, but they're going to make sure he stays back there, stays in line. And then you look at it also from a Constructors' Championship standpoint. If Checo can move up a little bit further, Max running up front, fastest lap, good haul of points there. One of the Ferraris out, the other one running in 5th. They're 29 points ahead of Red Bull right now for 2nd in the Constructors. So this is a day for Red Bull to try to swing back, claw back some of that deficit that Ferrari's managed to gain over them over the last 2 weeks.
No further investigation on Charles Leclerc for rejoining unsafely. They agreed with James Hinchcliffe, but we've seen a tighter squeeze when leaving the road at 4 and rejoining at 5. He's on board with Oscar Piastri, who is following in the wheel tracks of his teammate. Yesterday, that was good enough for 2nd place in the sprint. It was yesterday. Yeah, just check. Okay, so that was the sprint race, and it was Lando taking his first sprint victory. The major points are handed out in the Grand Prix. Norris, who has cried so many times, that is his race engineer, Roy Joseph. We've heard the driver conversing to engineer and vice versa all the way through this race. It doesn't appear that the McLaren has rip-roaring pace. Can they minimise some of the damage to get past Charles Leclerc, who at the moment is doing all he can for his team to try to close the gap down, but at the moment, 1 Ferrari running, 2 McLarens are out.
It's so tough to know what the real pace order is. Verstappen with clean track. As we see Piastri going a little bit wide there in turn 12. Not too much time lost, but he's going to be exposed here.
Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda is going to be on the charge. He's got so much more momentum. All the speed that you take out of turn 12, you take down to turn number 1. Here's the example as they build up to 180 miles per hour. Can Piastri hang on the inside? The answer is yes, and he's got away with that one for the time being.
Not over yet, though. Yuki's going to have another shot down into turn 4. Still no DRS, so not as powerful an opportunity here. I think too far back to make it work this time. So as you say, Piastri getting away with that one. But just going back to that point, Verstappen in clean air, we're seeing this pace out of him devastating right now. Almost a second quicker than Ocon on that last lap. And you compare it, Ocon and Gasly holding up Russell, and then Leclerc holding up the McLarens, the V-carbs. If those cars were in clear air, it'd be tough to know exactly what sort of pace they've had. If it's closer to the Red Bull right now, if you just take a look at that little lock-up left front from Piastri. Didn't get all four wheels off, rather, and managed to hang on to the spot in the charging V-card. But right now, I mean, Max doesn't have to push. He can maintain this gap if he wants, and he just keeps going faster and faster, setting new fastest laps, half a dozen times already since he took the lead.
A little bit of progress being made by George Russell in the battle for the final podium place. Russell, the 26-year-old Brit, up against Gasly, the 28-year-old Frenchman. Gasly looking for what would be only a 5th career podium. Esteban Ocon looking for his 4th career podium today. And this race could yet still be affected by the weather. Looking out of the commentary box window, the same intensity of rain out there for the moment.
And a weather update on lap 60, we expect class 1 to class 2 rain to last for about 4 laps.
So specific. I love the specificity of it. Exactly which lap, exactly how intense the rain is going to be, and for exactly how many laps. And I do like that they seem to have switched the trend from telling the driver for how long it's going to rain in terms of minutes, and turn that into laps. I kind of like that from inside the cockpit. That's a useful bit of information.
Well, the gap was 44 points at the start of the day. At the moment, Lando Norris is trying to make sure that he doesn't lose 16 points to Max Verstappen. And that really is a pivotal moment in the World Championship, and what a different story it appeared earlier on when Max Verstappen was 17th on the grid for this Grand Prix. We had Lance Stroll spin out earlier on before we got the start, before the 5 red lights went out. We had Alex Albon unable to take the start, so he was lined up as the 15th car, but from 17th on the grid is what the rule book and the record books will record. That's a super late lunge from Sergio Perez, and even though we have seen a lot of late lunges into that corner today, that one was never going to work. Might be a different story at turn number 4.
Yeah, much closer this time than what we saw from that last battle down into turn 4. These two have history coming from last week in Mexico. Contact on a spot.
And a weather update on lap 60, we expect class 1 to class 2 rain to last for about 4 laps.
Applying the pressure. There's going to be a second risk and reward window, like we saw when Oliver Behrman was really attacking Carlos Sainz. Russell's going to have that opportunity on Gasly. Gasly's going to have that opportunity on his teammate. Verstappen's got to try and find a measure when that rain arrives. The team have a good handle on the weather at this stage of the weekend. We still expect another shower before we get to the checkered flag. Perez racing with intent right now. He wants to get past Lawson.
Getting so close to the back of the V-card there, through that second sector. He's just trying to make Lawson look in his mirrors. He's just trying to get him distracted, get him off his game a little bit. He might just take the smallest little mistake that gives Checo the opportunity. He's pretty close this time. And we've seen how strong he can be on the brakes into turn 1. Maybe an opportunity here. Lawson defending to the inside. Checo goes to the outside and ducks back in.
The switchback move, the place gained, the apex first. Lawson doesn't want to give it up. It's not that wide a racetrack, and there's the example. Wheel banging on the way through. Perez's momentum has been checked, and Hamilton is desperately trying to fight back through. These two coming to blows again.
A lot more respect there, a lot more racing room, but God, it was close there. Hamilton had to back out of it in turn 3, lost that momentum, didn't have an opportunity to get on Checo, but now he does.
And Hamilton finds a way by. Sergio Perez showing that if you deviate from the racing line at certain corners, there's so much water. If you even go a wheel's width wide, and Hamilton didn't need a second invitation, he is up to 10th position.
Got onto that exit curve outside of turn 12 and just no grip. The water pools up. There's serrated edges there on the kind of tiered levels of the curve, and water can sit inside. And you saw Checo half a car width over it, couldn't get the power down, and unfortunately, nothing he could do to stop Hamilton from going by. He goes from almost executing the pass on Lawson to losing that position, trying to go for 9th, ends up outside the points in 11th.
Gasly, you can see, punch and counter punch with George Russell, who's got rid of a tear off. And the spray is high, picked high by that Mercedes, the lead Mercedes in the contest. An intense contest, a draining contest of the drivers that looks certain to have an impact on both championships, but certainly the Drivers' Championship, with Lando Norris now getting that gap down to 1.4 seconds. You never know what twists and turns we're going to get, not only in this race, but for the rest of the season. We still have a triple header to decide both titles in Las Vegas, in Qatar, and in Abu Dhabi to close out the season. Norris will know that if he can get past Leclerc, he can recover something from today as we review that great switchback move that saw Lawson go side by side. Not best friends, those two.
No, never have been. Don't think they ever will be. Verstappen lowers the fastest lap time again, down to a 22.0. But no, that was a little bit of side by side, barely contact. That's just good hard racing. He still came out in front, so no harm, no foul, no reason to take too much issue with it there for Liam Lawson.
Hamilton had a really good first sector of the racetrack, trying to chase down Liam Lawson last time around. He's getting a good hold, punch in the air for him once again, and Hamilton trying to find a route for a safe and clean pass on Lawson. Meanwhile, the Mercedes of George Russell really applying the pressure to Pierre Gasly. Gasly looking for just a 5th career podium. George Russell has stood on the rostrum 14 times before, twice as a winner. Gasly memorably winning the Italian Grand Prix of 2020. Would love a chance to do what he's done before around here and put it on the podium. Even drag race to the line with the Mercedes that day. He doesn't want to be in a drag race to the line. Car on the rostrum as well. And the Enstone base team, they've been known by different names through the years, but the Enstone Factory Formula One team haven't had 2 cars on the podium since 2013. It's an enormous opportunity as Verstappen logs fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap. And there is a reminder of George Russell trying to turn 14 into 15. All the way back to turn 12 is Hamilton trying to take 9th place.
He's working at it. Again, he's recovered nicely from a rough start to this Grand Prix, both from his physical starting position and then a few off-track situations early. Definitely deeper on the brakes than Liam Lawson. Lawson exposed a little bit. Both cars getting some oversteer through turn 1. Big wiggle there from Lawson. He would have had to check off the throttle there. Not enough for Hamilton to get an honest run, but Hamilton's definitely later on the brakes.
No inside line available to the 3-time Interlagos winner, the driver who put on a performance of real class back in 2021, on his way to roaring through from the back of the sprint to the front by the end of the Grand Prix. It's lap 58 of 69, and we have an interesting top 2 that few could have predicted. Perez feeling brave now. The fastest lap of the race belongs to Max Verstappen. Can Perez find his way back into the points? He's driving to the left, to the right, soaring away at the back of that Mercedes, but there's still no route through. It's serene at the front, and so many other positions are up for grabs. Doesn't look like 5th is at the moment. Norris has dropped back 1.8 seconds away.
Yeah, I mean, Checo here clearly's got pace in this race car. It's just so hard to execute those passes. Hamilton also very strong on the brakes into turn one, certainly stronger than the V-carb in front. He really needs, if anything, Hamilton to start making some moves here on Lawson so that he can try and attack there, get himself back into the top 10, and then go after the Mercedes. But man, I'm just so impressed with these Alpines. Both drivers doing an incredible job to maintain that position. We're coming up to 10 laps to go in this race, and they have really not been challenged since they got themselves up there. Great strategy, staying out long, benefiting, of course, from that safety car and ultimately that red flag condition, but they are maintaining this pace and just doing an incredible job.
This is really still in the balance until we get that final shower. I want to thank Ruth Buscon-Divey for giving us the information of the gap that you need to box under the safety car, pit under the safety car, and come out in front is around 14 to 15 seconds. If we get another moment that changes the conditions and you've got to go from the intermediate to the wet tyre. George Russell is hoping to get that pass done. Russell was furious on the radio that they gave up track position. That has been pivotal. In the form of the rest of the year, you would have expected the Mercedes to roar past the Alpine, but this has been a strange occasion. We started at 7:30 in the morning for the racing action. The fans were still making their way into the circuit at that time. The queues were around the block as they always seem to be. The mechanics were on site at 4 a.m. preparing these cars, and some teams have had to do that again and again. There was incredible work at Williams and Aston Martin to get their entries, at least one entry into the race of both of those teams, and we have been treated to a wet race of renown. We're going to talk about what Max Verstappen has done in this race, and he will want it to go all the way to the end. Lap 60 was about the moment McLaren expected the final rain shower of the Grand Prix to arrive, and then how much is Gasly prepared to risk compared to George Russell? One moment on the curb, one lock-up, can see your podium chances fade in an instant.
And remember, you know, we have 27, now 28 laps on these inters as Verstappen sets another new fastest lap. And that's more laps than what we saw on them when the really heavy rain came last time before the red flag for the Colapinto crash. So if we do get a deluge here, it is going to be super challenging. You can see how much drier the racetrack is getting online. Again, drier, not dry by any stretch. That's still rooster tails coming off the cars. But you can see where that line is quite clearly. So these inters really getting stressed. Drivers having to manage, having to balance. How much do you push? How aggressive are you for lap time and for overtakes, but still making sure there's enough rubber left on these tires to make it all the way to lap 68.
Hamilton continuing to trail Lawson. Russell continuing to trail Gasly. One Mercedes battling for the podium, the other one trying to make the best of a tricky weekend. As Hamilton closes out his era-defining run with Mercedes before moving to Ferrari, one of so many talking points that we can't wait to get stuck into for Formula One in 2025. But for Formula One in 2024, it looks like this is a defining day. The rain does not appear to be increasing outside the commentary box window or on the evidence of the cameras.
Mando, Oscar behind you has a 10-second penalty. We want, therefore, you to get close to Leclerc.
What do you think, company? I'm trying to go as quickly as I can.
So that does also answer a question that we were talking about earlier about Piastri's penalty. Even though he stopped before the red, clearly did not serve that penalty at that time. I wonder if the same is true for the penalty that Ollie Behrman was given. There's some question marks still there, but yeah, Norris, it's one of those frustrating things to hear on the radio as a driver. Can you drive faster, please? Well, I mean, yes, there are times in a race where you are holding back some pace. There's some reasons and some strategies behind that, but I think it's quite clear in this Grand Prix, Norris trying to do everything he can to move up. He's not just letting Leclerc sit 2.5 seconds in front of him. That's just the pace of the McLaren at the moment. Not as strong in these conditions as what they were in the dry. That'll be a team ruling the fact that the weather turned from yesterday to today. Another fastest lap of the Grand Prix for Max Verstappen. Statement after statement after statement being made. The first time we heard him really rattled all year long was in the pen after qualifying. You knew there was going to be a response that either hurt his championship challenge or defined it. And we're on lap 63 of 69.
Lando, Oscar behind you has a 10-second penalty. We want therefore you to get close to Leclerc. What do you think of it? I'm trying to go as quickly as I can.
Down the conspiracy theory route, but what it did was light a fire under this driver and set him up for one of the greatest drives of his career from the back to the front as he gets so close now to the back of that V car. Wow, what he would give for DRS at this stage of the race. Oscar Piastri, you can see, he's 12 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Norris not enjoying the hurry up, but doesn't have the balance, doesn't have the speed, and that outstanding penalty graphic is for Piastri. 10 seconds will be added to his race time, and he had to let Norris through for the order in the Drivers' Championship, and Russell is still a second away from Gasly. The opinion down in the paddock has changed. The level of rain that we're now expecting to the end is about to remain the same. So Russell trying to force Gasly into an error in the final stages, and nothing is simple on a day like today. Absolutely not. His teammate Hamilton trying to do the same to Liam Lawson. Just got to make that error. And look, we talked about how great a job the Alpines are doing. Right now, Ocon still a second a lap slower than Verstappen. So that track position is so important. It is very difficult to execute passes right now as that dry line starts to form. Again, drier line starts to form. We talked about this earlier. The harder it is to go offline to try to execute a pass. So even though the Alpines are a second off the pace, they're able to maintain that track position. But up front, Verstappen just metronomic in his firing off of these quick laps. The track dries a little bit, it gets a bit more grip. As the fuel burns, it gets a little bit lighter. And the car's got a bit more pace, and he's just finding that tenth and a half every lap or two and bettering his own fastest lap. So impressive up front. Max Verstappen had a lead of 44 points coming into today. He will extend his lead in the Drivers' World Championship if he can complete the final tours. And it's 5 to go as he sets another fastest lap. As he writes a story that's going to be mentioned a long time into the future. The door was ajar after qualifying, and he's walked back through it, through the field, to the front. And now, Gasly, again, feeling the need to cool down the tyres. Look at this leap from Alpine. No one saw this coming. They are heading, as it stands, from a dreary, dreary position of 9th in the Constructors' Championship, back up to 6th, trying to take advantage of this, trying to hang on to a double podium against all expectations at the start of the day. And this is one of the things that started that conversation a few races ago about changing the point system to pay all the way down, because you have a team that has been struggling. Let's call a spade a spade. The results haven't been there, but with points so few and far between for the bottom half of that midfield, one day where conditions are strange and the race plays out in a bizarre fashion can alter that situation so much. That jump from 9th to 6th, we're talking tens of millions of dollars in prize money at the end of the season if they're able to hang on to that position. This is a game changer for their year. Flavio Briatore, an executive advisor at that team, Oliver Oates, the team principal installed this year mid-season, will be dancing in the rain if they can hang on to a double podium. And for the team that have had to carry on working, trying to keep smiles on faces, they've had to reduce the head count there in the last few months as well. So much work has gone on. Sometimes you put all the hard work in and you get the reward. You get a glug of the champagne. And sometimes you can't put a car in the top 8. Alpine knew this was going to be a golden opportunity, and they are getting closer and closer. Can Russell give himself an option with the deployment of energy on the last lap in the way that we saw Perez take the fight to Alonso last year? We're still seeing Liam Lawson keep Hamilton and
Perez behind, the man auditioning for a promotion to the big team next year, or maybe just a full season contract with the Faenza-based team for the first time in his career.
Checo's got a great run on Hamilton here, down the back straight into 4.
This is for the final point. Will the gap appear? It will not, and Perez had to get out of the throttle.
Yeah, he knew that Hamilton wasn't going to be foolish enough to give Checo the opportunity. He knows how good Checo is on the brakes right now in these conditions, and then up front, Lawson hanging on with everything he's got.
I will finish the race for the mechanics. But they did a very good job today. But my back is 30, man. This bouncing is not normal.
Not the kind of message you want to hear out of a racing driver. Physical pain because of the bouncing phenomenon that he's having in that Aston Martin, but being a team player, trying to reward the mechanics for the incredible work of getting both his and Lance Stroll's cars fixed after qualifying crashes in time for the start of the race.
Yeah, Alonso thanking the mechanics on the radio there as we look at these glorious corners in the wet, in front of the crowds on the terraces at this circuit in Interlagos that has provided us again with another classic. Can Hamilton get close? He did, but not to find his way by. Russell remains a second away from Gasly, who's driven brilliantly so far. We're on lap 67 of 69. The lap count reduced by 2. Verstappen continuing to set purple sectors. That's for being the fastest on the track.
I will finish the race for the mechanics. But they did a very good job today. But my back is 30, man. This bouncing is not normal.
Yeah, Gasly, his second one around this circuit. Nervy moments for the team principal, Oliver Oaks.
And another fastest lap for Verstappen. He is just clicking them off at an incredible rate right now. Over a second and a half faster than Esteban Ocon on that last lap. He is on cruise control, but his cruise is just on another level right now. But how about Liam Lawson, a 7-time champion, right behind him, clearly with more pace in hand, but he's not putting a wheel wrong. That's it. He knows he doesn't have the pace to drive away from these guys, but he is doing a great job of just keeping it clean, not making any mistakes, and not creating the opportunity for either Hamilton or Perez to make a move here. This is a spirited driver. Look, as Checo's going for it.
He's trying to get to the apex first. Hamilton was slow out of 12. He goes wide to give room to his racing rival. Slightly compromised line as they make their way down the hill now to turn number 4. They're heading to the late corner. Can Perez finally get that line that he's been looking for all the while? We are watching the battle for the final places in the points, and coming over the line outside of the commentary box window is Max Verstappen to start the final lap, the final 2.6 miles of a generational drive to victory.
As you say, this is just championship momentum back in Verstappen's favor in a big way. He has not left the Grand Prix with an extended lead very often over Lando Norris since the summer break. Only Austin, I believe, is the only time he's outscored him and actually increased that gap. But right now, it is going to be a monstrous swing in Verstappen's favor after what's been an incredible drive.
It has been an uncomfortable time away from the front for Max Verstappen. It really has. They're still fighting all the way to the final lap for the final point. But Max Verstappen has put together something truly remarkable. Still an opportunity for the final places in the points, really, to change towards the end. And Verstappen is ticking off the final corners. He is plunging down the hill now. In the Brazilian rain, the Dutchman has delivered a defining drive. He climbs the hill back to Grand Prix victory. Up through the gears to a huge moment in the Drivers' World Championship. The world champion strikes back. Max Verstappen wins the Sao Paulo Grand Prix in 2024. 17th on the grid to the win. A return to victory when it mattered most. His first win for a Grand Prix since back in June to put one hand on the
Championship trophy, and punching the air with delight is Esteban Ocon, who takes his 4th career podium, and he will be joined by his teammate for his 5th career podium, and for the first time in 11 years, Team Enstone have both cars on the podium. Alpine finally have something to smile about. Gasly beat Russell to the line by 7/10 of a second. And with the time penalty applied, Piastri drops down behind Yuki Tsunoda. Leclerc was in 5th, Norris was in 6th. We're racing all the way to the line, but Hamilton was 0.3 of a second away. Perez was denied that final point, but that was defining, it was generational, it was superlative for Max.
Wow. It's been a long time coming, mate, but boy, was that worth the wait. You are the man.
Oh, yes! What an unbelievable race, guys. You know what that is? Simply lovely. I tell you that.
You just love hearing that emotion out of Max Verstappen. I mean, last year, we just got so used to hearing those radio messages kind of being like, yeah, hey guys, good job. That raw emotion, he's so thrilled to be back up front, and he earned that one. That is something to be happy about, as is the performance from both of these guys. Let's hear from Ocon.
Well done, mate. Dario 10 and P2.
Oh, what a race, guys!
Well done, mate.
Oh, we didn't think we were going to be there, right?
Funnily enough, no, I didn't think so, no. So well done.
Yeah, well done to P and P3. Amazing, guys.
Yeah, that is...
The two boys from the north of France who grew up, let's be honest, not the best of friends, became teammates, and they've both delivered for their team. Ocon switching to Haas next year, but Max Verstappen, what a triple header. Controversy and brilliance. It's what...
Wow. It's been a long time coming, mate, but boy, was that worth the wait. You are the man.
Oh, yes!
About the champion.
Well done, mate. Dario 10 and P2.
Yeah! Oh, what a race, guys!
Well done, mate.
Oh, we didn't think we were going to be there, right?
Funnily enough, no, I didn't think so, no. So well done.
Yeah, well done to P and P3. Amazing, guys.
Yeah, that is...
Two Frenchmen on the podium. The first time in Formula One for a very long while. You have to go back to Spain in 1997, I'm being informed. Olivier Panis and John Alesi that day. For Pierre and for Esteban. Friends turned rivals, turned teammates, turned Frenchmen on the podium together. For the 4th time, Esteban Ocon. For the 5th time, Pierre Gasly. Alpine's miserable season turns the page, and they're up to 6th in the Constructors' Championship.
It's a $30 million day. I mean, it's a good day. And look, that crew has not had a lot to cheer for or to be happy about this season. It's been a tough slog. Everyone acknowledges it. The drivers, the team, but the men and women of Alpine never gave up. They brought that update to the car in Austin. They were rewarded with a Q3 appearance. They were rewarded further in Mexico with points, the first one since June. And now look at this. Double podium position in Brazil. Just 2 weeks after they had their first points for several months. Max with the family.
You can't argue a driver of the day.
No. Almost a foregone conclusion on that one.
Hall of Fame stuff. It's going to go into the great drives conversation, and it looked that way from early on. The emotions today are
up and down, and in the end, on top of all the others. Lando took the pole, Max took the win, and Alpine are probably just as delighted. The rest of the classification, George Russell in 4th, Charles Leclerc in 5th, Lando Norris with a 6th place to lose points in the World Championship battle, Yuki Tsunoda with a strong 7th place, Oscar Piastri's penalty dropped him down to 8th. The points were completed by Lawson and...
Do we have charge on, please? Charge on.
The rest of the finishers, Perez, Behrman, Bottas, Alonso and Joe, our retirements, Sainz, Colapinto, Hulkenberg, Albon and Stroll. That championship pendulum is basically broken. It was towards Lando, it was towards Max, it was back towards Lando when he took pole, and in the end, it's high fives all round, celebrations. Try and sum up what we've just seen, Hinch.
Outstanding.
Do we have